If this man's voice doesn't jolt the system, nothing will. He isn't asking for miracles. He's asking for integrity, timelines that mean something, and for Indian industry to rise to the occasion. Anyone who thinks that this is a clarion call for imports couldn't be more wrong, because Air Chief Marshal AP Singh stands for Swadeshi self-reliance. He stands for the Tejas. All he is asking for are promises be kept. The tap on your shoulder is here, he said. This is your moment, he says. If you're unprepared, it's no longer a tragedy, it's a national liability. India fights hard, we've seen it, but it fights with one hand tied behind its back. That's the reality that we must face today, from the words of the Air Chief. And he has just told you who's tying that knot. And joining us now in the wake of Operation Sindoor, when the Indian Air Force is squarely in the spotlight, is a man who has been in many hot seats, whether it is in a combat cockpit or the helm of affairs in the Indian Air Force. In fact, he was the Chief of the Air Staff right before the present Chief. It's my honor to welcome Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary onto India Matters tonight. Thank you very much, Air Chief Chaudhary, for your time. This is a time when the Air Force is front and center. Everyone is talking about Operation Sindoor. The evidence is out there. We'll come to some of the other matters that are making the headlines today. But I wanted to start not only by welcoming you here onto your first major interview since your retirement last year, but also to ask you about your opening assessment, your first words, Air Chief Chaudhary, on Operation Sindoor and what we know about it.
I think the trust reposed in the Indian Air Force by the nation as a whole was fulfilled in all measures by the kind of action that we've seen over those 90 hours. The primary roles of the Indian Air Force during an offensive action like this have all seen complete success in all aspects. And I think every single member, from the chief down to every operator in the field, deserves a pat on his or her back for the excellent work that was done.
We're calling it, the most kinetic non-war military operation, perhaps in India's history, Air Chief Chaudhary. Would you agree with that assessment that, given the scale, scope, depth of what the Indian Air Force achieved, that would be an accurate description?
I would not say very accurate because, it is a mix of both kinetic as well as non-kinetic means that were employed during this short skirmish. Primarily, the emphasis or what we saw as in, when we debrief on what happened during those few days was that it was more of an use of long-range weapons, both air-to-ground, air-to-air and surface-to-air. So this is a new paradigm in which the contact between opponents, physical contact was minimal, close combat was very less, majority of the combat was fought beyond visual ranges.
Talk to us a little bit about those long-range strikes, Air Chief Chaudhary, because, as we know, in peacetime, before conflict, before combat operations, the Air Force, including under you, is constantly practicing precisely for this kind of thing. You don't suddenly acquire this capability. And under your stewardship as well, I remember there were many firepower exercises where precisely this kind of thing, long-range offensive strikes, deep inside adversary territory, has been practiced again and again and again, sir.
Absolutely. So the old adage which says that the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. I think our training has been curriculum, both academic as well as practical training, has always emphasized that we will do the way we train every day. For that, you are aware, we do a large number of exercises within our commands, inter-commands. We've done it with friendly foreign nations. Last year, we capped it by doing Tarang Shakti, a multilateral exercise within our country. There's a lot to learn from these exercises. This is as far as the offensive action goes. Delivery of weapons is a thing which our pilots, our aircrew, do on a daily basis. Some may not be live delivery. Some of it happens on simulators. But apart from carrying live weapons on a daily basis, we practice. The Air Force practices exactly what is going to happen in a conflict like this. When it comes to air defense measures, you are aware that
Yes.
the prime responsibility of the air defense of the nation rests with the Air Force. We have been on alert 24/7, 365 days a year. Our radars are churning all the time. Fighter pilots are on operational readiness platforms. Our surface-to-air guided weapons are on short alert. And so it's in continuous 24-hour basis at which we are working, and we're training for a conflict like this if ever it has to happen again.
You know, Air Chief Chaudhary, an interesting question that we've been getting from our viewers ever since pictures came out of the three chiefs in the war room during Operation Sindoor has been, you know, what are the chiefs talking about? You know, what are they, who are they in touch with? What are they doing? Obviously, these are secret issues, they are classified issues. But can you explain to the public, you know, in those hours and minutes, what would the chiefs be doing, specifically the Air Chief?
I think the primary role of the Air Force in such a situation was targeting.
Yeah.
And for targeting, the first sine qua non is accurate intelligence. And after the delivery of the weapons, it is the bomb damage assessment. So it's a continuous loop that, you know, you gather intelligence, you fire your weapons, you carry out bomb damage assessment, and then you reassess whether the target needs to be addressed once again or not. So probably this is the kind of thing which happens all the time in an operations room. Apart from that, the live air picture of the entire subcontinent is available, and through the help of the air defense commanders and the others there, they are made aware as to what the air situation, the air picture, the overall air picture is. For example, you know, the tracking of the civilian airline close to Lahore during the time of retaliatory fire, or closure of airspace, or something is monitored continuously in such ops rooms.
The very interesting aspect, of course, of this particular operation, Chief Chaudhary, as you've no doubt seen, is the vast amounts of battle damage imagery that has been generated by independent satellites and observers of exactly what the Indian Air Force struck. This is not up for debate. We've seen these things mired in claims and counterclaims in the past, whether it was Balakot or earlier. This time it was there for the whole world to see. What did you make of that?
Absolutely. You see the precision with which the Indian Air Force has struck the targets, the designated targets, the kind of damage they have done, and the capability to inflict such kind of damage if the need arises was shown to the whole world. So battle damage assessment, this time definitely we had access to far better imagery, both in the public domain as well as within the confines of the military. So access to such high quality imagery gives confidence in our own capabilities to be able to strike accurately on the designated targets.
Would I be right in saying, and I'm not trying to be mischievous here, Air Chief Chaudhary, but would I be right in saying that given that such clear imagery is there in the public domain from publicly available sources, the imagery that must be of a more classified nature must be even more dramatic, giving us even more data about what we actually achieved?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, clipped answer there. Okay, I'll move on to the next one, but I hear you loud and clear. The air defense that you talked about, Air Chief Chaudhary, was no small feat. Obviously the fighter aircraft, the strikes, the battle damage is what has become more visible and easily accessible. But the somewhat lesser sung heroes of this were the air defense units that did a stellar job in preventing any air intrusions, etc. We do know that the air defense shield in many ways reached a great measure of maturity under your stewardship of the Air Force. We saw the S-400s come in while you were there. Those saw combat action this time as well. Just give us a sense of how important this, this Agni Pariksha, as it were, was for our air defense network, sir, because it was tested to the hilt.
Yeah, firstly, let me tell you that we will take no credit away from the air defense operators.
Yeah.
I think they did a stellar job. Their performance was just simply outstanding. Now, coming to the entire gamut of air defense and how we've grown over the ages. Firstly, of course, you are aware of the new systems that we inducted, like you just mentioned, the S-400 or the Amar SAM. At the lower level of the spectrum, we have inducted large number of counter-UAS systems, both hard kill as well as soft kill systems. And a very heartening thing to note is that most of these systems have been designed, developed, and manufactured by small industries within our country.
Yes.
So this was a huge boost to the MSMEs. When we started buying off the shelf and helping them in designing and developing a large number of counter-UAS systems. So when you look at the whole spectrum of air defense, we need to defend against ballistic missiles down to small drones which are flying at 30 kmph maybe. So we cannot have one system that will meet all the requirements there.
Correct.
So the idea is to integrate all the available systems. And I think the integrated system has worked very well this time.
Indeed, it has, and and you're right. Credit must go where it is due, and it must be a source of professional satisfaction to you also, Air Chief Chaudhary, that many of the decisions taken in the Air Force to invest in indigenous drone products and capabilities, both of an offensive nature as well as counter drone measures. All of those were tested this time and they've come out with flying colors. How did you feel about that?
Definitely, it's very heartening to see the way these systems were utilized, the way they were, like you said, Agni Pariksha, or they were actually tried out in real combat. Some of them probably were just inducted maybe just a few months ago.
Yeah.
And all of them have proved their worth. I think the Indian industry, the small scale, the MSMEs and the startups and all that, they really require a huge pat on the back for what they've come out with.
Does this signal a new paradigm as far as drone warfare is concerned? Give us your reading of that, Air Chief Chaudhary, because not only did the Indian air defense network, especially the lower level systems, handle vast amounts of swarming drone attacks from the Pakistan side, but Indian drones did manage to penetrate, it looks like, and cause damage in several places in POK as well as Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. It appears that the era of drone warfare, for which India had been watching from the sidelines so far, is very real for us now.
It is, but still it has its limitations as of now. You see the amount of damage that a drone can inflict is quite minimal as compared to what a standoff, long-range standoff weapon can, as we've seen in this. Ideally, the force structure should be a good mix of having both standoff weapon capability, as well as, if I can use the antonym of standoff, would be probably stand-in capability in terms of drones. So drones are more attritable, more expendable, more, they need to be produced in large numbers and at a very low cost, so that we can afford the attrition of these drones.
Yes.
So now an offensive action would ideally see a healthy mix of both these happening. One, to saturate the enemy air defenses, and secondly, to be able to target multiple designated points at the same time.
Very interesting, and this is something that we, of course, are going to be looking at very closely, because the Indian Armed Forces are going to be looking to acquire larger capabilities when it comes to drones of all kinds. Now I want to move on to something else that has made the headlines with the entire country's attention now on the military, its achievements in Operation Sindoor. Every word being spoken right now is being taken with an elevated sense of seriousness and attention, Air Chief Chaudhary. I know you know what I'm talking about. Your successor's words, at a function, a felicitation function today, have gone viral. I'm not going to ask you to, comment on a professional colleague's words, because I know you are way too professional for that as an Air Chief. But the reason why I bring it up is because you have said the same things and you've had the same concerns as well as the Chief, because these are things that occupy the Chief of the Air Staff and, perhaps keep him up at night as well. These are life and death issues. Unrealistic timelines, deals signed where things are delayed and don't deliver on time. One cannot help wondering, Air Chief Chaudhary, that 3 weeks after Operation Sindoor, for this to be red flag sounds like a real alarm because it is a serious issue, sir. Could you comment on that?
No, it definitely is a serious issue. No wonder it has been flagged every now and then at all levels. The requirement to not only have surge capabilities, which I was going to bring about maybe a little later, but this question brings me to that. The ability to manufacture in numbers at the right time is very vital. Apart from that, to have capability to carry out surge production. When you just mentioned about drones, let's say I need very, very large number of drones. It is not going to be sufficient if somebody is going to give me 20 per month or 50 per year. We will need them in large numbers. So capacity building definitely has to be enhanced. And again, it's an approach which has to be jointly done by the industry, by the government, by all players together have to put the shoulder behind the wheel to get things moving much faster than they are today.
Do you feel there is an accountability issue, sir? The current air chief didn't take any names of any specific organizations, but obviously we know he was referring perhaps vicariously to HAL and the DRDO ecosystem and the DPSUs about over-promising and under-delivering or delays in those deliveries. When you talk about the need for capacity and for things to actually come on time, especially at a time when India has just fought what even the air chief has described as a war, that becomes very, very serious.
It is. It has always been a serious issue. The depletion of strength of any force has always been a matter of concern for the leadership. But the way to fill in the bins, whether it is weapons, whether it is aircraft, whether anything else, it is a time-consuming process. It does not happen overnight. Even if you have the money for it, your economy may be willing to support it, but it takes time.
Yeah.
So it requires a lot of planning, a lot of assurance from the people whom you place the orders on that they are going to deliver as promised. If they fail to deliver, or if they told us maybe some years ago that we will not be able to meet the timelines, maybe alternative paths could have been found. So that is the crucial matter here is that it's an issue of national security. Things should not be taken lightly when it comes to delayed timelines or late deliveries or substandard equipment. So this is a thing which everybody should take pride in, to be able to deliver on time, to be able to meet the QRs laid down by the services.
Yeah.
And because finally it's a part of the national defense that they are dealing with.
And your words on this can never be doubted, Chief Chaudhary, because one knows how strongly you have stood for homegrown system and self-reliance when it comes to this, because at the end of the day, it is the Chief of the Air Staff who has to carry the can if there is an over-dependence on imported systems. But when we talk about delays, the system that comes foremost to mind right now are the Tejas Mark 1A fighters, the improved version of the Tejas, which were to have begun deliveries, when you were the Air Chief. But now, many, many months later, over a year since the time they were supposed to be delivered, not a single one has arrived. That has also become a trigger point as far as Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the larger ecosystem is concerned, sir.
It definitely has. The idea is to now find what are the bottlenecks in the production. Just blaming it on delayed delivery of the engines is one thing, but there will be some other bottlenecks that need to be identified. The expansion of the production lines or the final assembly lines needs to take place ASAP. And, we need to learn from where we failed in the past.
Yeah.
So as not to repeat the same mistakes in future. For the further orders or further deliveries, we should ensure that all the bottlenecks have been anticipated and sort of taken care of by having multiple options, multiple vendors, multiple suppliers. Reliance on one single vendor or a supplier for one component can hold up the production of the entire aircraft. So this is a thing that we need to learn from the past.
Final question to you, Air Chief Chaudhary, is on our concept AMCA stealth fighter project, the 5th generation fighter project. The government recently, cleared the execution model for that fighter. But as we know, there's a great deal of pressure because China has them. They will be supplying them to Pakistan very soon. What is your assessment of that program? Is it the only way we can go forward now?
See, we have placed all our bets on the anchor. And I think yesterday we had Chief Marshal Baduria speaking at length on it.
Yes.
So we have reposed complete confidence in DRDO, ADA, and now, of course, the manufacturing is open to private industry as well. But we placed all our confidence in them. We said, okay, that we will hold hands wherever required. Now the government has said that we will hold hands in terms of private players coming in. So I think now there should be no holdups in meeting the promised timelines for the deliveries of the prototypes at least. Yes.
It's something we look forward to very deeply, and your words on these ultra serious matters will of course be taken with the wisdom and the seriousness they deserve. And I thank you for speaking to us here on India Matters and to our NDTV's millions of viewers in India and across the world. Our attention remains focused on this big story. Air Chief Marshal V.R. Chaudhary, a privilege, a pleasure. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shiv.
And finally, 8 months after sailing literally all around the globe, two young Indian Navy officers, Lieutenant Dilna and Lieutenant Rupa, are finally back home. They hit home shore earlier today and they were received, as you can see, by none other than the Defence Minister, Rajnath Singh. These pictures from Goa. Imagine 8 months at sea and they're finally back in their country. Imagine the amazing stories that these two young officers have to tell. We will bring you that, I promise you, on NDTV. Thanks for watching India Matters. The news continues on the other side.
Hello, Moto.
Motorola, India's leading AI smartphone brand.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv, only on NDTV 24/7. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news, from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Denzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
Hello everyone, this is The Last Word and I'm Maria Shakil. Has the Congress party sounded the peace bugle with Shashi Tharoor after he crossed the line of control in the Congress party, that is the LOC? Well, certainly there are indications to this because remember, till a few hours back, gloves were off between the Congress and Shashi Tharoor. But now there seems to be all indications that there is a climb down within the Congress from its earlier position of a potential action. Before I get all the details from Ankit, who's standing across for that, let's listen in to what played out earlier today.
श्रीमान शशि थरूर कहते हैं कि मोदी जी के पहले कोई लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल या इंटरनेशनल बॉर्डर पाकिस्तान का पार ही नहीं किया। इतना बड़ा झूठ और इतना बड़ा षड्यंत्र कांग्रेस के इतिहास मिटाने का जवाब तो देना ही पड़ेगा। उनको अपना काम करना चाहिए कि वहाँ जाकर के कांग्रेस की बुराई कर रहे हैं।
Ankit Tyagi joins us. So Ankit, what are you hearing from your Congress sources?
Well, top sources in the Congress party are saying, Maria, that there is not going to be any action against Shashi Tharoor. And apart from that, what we are seeing is that the Congress leadership sees this as an unnecessary escalation, which at this moment doesn't look well on the Congress party. Even if the BJP, by putting Shashi Tharoor without consulting the Congress party, even if there was a political mischief, the Congress doesn't want to walk into that. They also believe that the post that Mr. Tharoor has put out on X is clarification enough, and that at this moment seems to be the end of the matter for the Congress top leadership, despite certain leaders, like one of them, we heard Mr. Udit Raj escalating the matter. There are also other political considerations behind this. Remember, next year is the Kerala election, Thiruvananthapuram, where the Congress MP Shashi Tharoor is the elected member from. The Congress doesn't want to give any leeway either to the left or the BJP in any sense as far as the important election of Kerala is also concerned. And at this moment, when everybody is talking about Operation Sindoor, they don't want to be seen as people, or at least where there is infighting on that issue as well within the Congress party.
And Ankit, he has been elected from Thiruvananthapuram 4 times consecutively. 2009, 2014, 2019 and 2024, despite the Modi wave. So certainly there is lots more to this saga that we are seeing play out. Ankit Tyagi, really appreciate your time, and let me bring in BJP leader from Kerala and former Union Minister KJ Alphonse, who joins me live. KJ Alphonse, of course, the BJP was hoping that in this saga between the Congress and Dr. Tharoor, there would be several more twists and turns and several more chapters, but it appears that there is a climb down within the Congress party.
Maria, I think the Congress has shot itself on its foot, but that's what they have been doing all their lives, all their history. So I don't think this entire debate today, conversation today, is going to do any good for the Congress party. See, this was a time when everybody needs to stand together. And yes, they did stand together, and the Honorable Prime Minister had thanked all the parties for standing together. And if you look at the delegation now, which is going around the world, it includes every party. Everybody is there. I mean, from Shashi Tharoor, from DNK's Karimori, we have OYC, we have everybody, and they're all speaking in one language saying what India did was right. Don't mess up with India. We are capable of striking. And, the Honorable Prime Minister had given that decisive strike, the decisive response, which the whole world needs to know, everybody needs to know. And this is not the time to, couple of minor things. I don't understand what the problem of the Congress party is. Now, of course, by evening they have folded up because they know that they've shot themselves on the foot, and obviously this is not going to go down well with the citizens of India, because everybody today is one with the Prime Minister, one with the nation, in saying yes, the Prime Minister and the government did exactly what was expected. We've sent out a message, and Shashi Tharoor, I think, he's done a wonderful job. So has all the members of all the other delegations which have gone abroad, Karimuri to Awaisi. I think they're all doing a fantastic job for India.
Yes, but he has been one of the fiercest defenders of Operation Sindoor. In fact, backers, I would say. He has been vociferously talking about what India has done, strategically how Operation Sindoor has been a huge success. But Mr. Alphonse, I'm sure because one leader after another, one spokesperson of the party, of the BJP after another, all of you were backing Dr. Tharoor. So certainly there were several, things playing out behind the curtains, should we say, in the run-up to Kerala elections?
Maria, this is nothing to do with Kerala election. It's got nothing to do with party politics. This is about the nation standing up. And, Congress was accusing him of being a spokesperson for the BJP. In fact, he's a spokesperson for India, for the nation. And I think that's a crucial role. See, according to me, I've been in the civil service, then I quit and joined politics. For me, politics is not about having enemies. I mean, you have rivals, but when the nation needs to stand together, we stand together in moments like this. This is when you test your fiber and see which political party has a fiber, who's got the right kind of an attitude towards the nation, protecting the integrity of the nation. Here was a nation where every citizen was with the Prime Minister and the government saying, wow, this was fantastic job done by the government. And I think Shashi Tharoor, as a true patriot and a reasonable man, a sensible person, a voice of sanity, as exactly whatever he said has been a voice of sanity, which I think every other delegation...
This voice of sanity, who has perhaps in the most structured fashion defended Operation Sindoor, certainly, helped build the government narrative. And, in all the multi-party, all these delegations which have traveled, this delegation is something which is being watched out for, particularly because they are in US, in Panama. That's what Dr. Tharoor's delegation is where. So do you think when he defends, should it be seen not from the prism of politics, like many are saying, analysts are of the opinion that this is about nation first, or within the BJP also, why is the entire party so celebratory that somebody like a Dr. Shashi Tharoor or say a Salman Khurshid or even Mr. P. Chidambaram are of the opinion that Operation Sindoor was the right move?
See, it's very clear. Shashi Tharoor is able to articulate exactly the sentiment of the nation. And so has some other teams like Mr. Owaisi, Karimuri. They've all been articulating. Of course, Shashi Tharoor happens to have has the ability with words. He's a very charming person. So, you see, he's able to reach across to a very large segment of people, conveying the right message. This is exactly the message which the government, India, wants to send across. You see, it's not a message from a particular person. Shashi Tharoor is a voice of India, not a particular party, not of a particular segment of people. And he's been very vocal in saying, this is a fantastic thing which India has done. We are proud of what India has done. We proved that we will We will not allow anybody to mess up with our country. The Honorable Prime Minister has struck deep into Pakistan, into the enemy territory. And this is something about which I think the entire nation is absolutely happy about. Now, what is the problem in Shashi Tharoor going around and saying, wait, this is what India thinks, this is what we have done, and we want the world to see that we need to fight terrorism together? I think the entire message of these missions are to say that there will be absolutely no compromise on terrorism. And Shashi Tharoor puts it across very, very well. What is the problem of the Congress party? I don't understand.
All right, KJ Alphonse, really appreciate your time. Let me bring in Udit Raj, former MP of the Congress party. Is, he is the one who has been taking on Dr. Shashi Tharoor almost every day. Dr. Udit Raj, it's been a tweet a day from you against Dr. Shashi Tharoor. He has also responded today. One may say that this could have been sorted out privately rather than you making it a public affair. What's wrong in Dr. Shashi Tharoor saying that this is essentially about reprisal for terrorist act and not about previous wars, the manner in which you are interpreting?
What happens is very, very clear that he has denigrated Congress history and said that before Mr. Modi, Indian Army has never crossed line of control international border. That is absolutely wrong. In a way that how can you erase the history of the Congress? That is the point where I am talking to him. And I'm saying that he should retract his statement or he should regret it. He has gone to other countries to expose Pakistan, but not to denigrate Congress, not to erase the history of the Congress. And what a point to mention about it that never before. You know that 6 times Manmohan Singh government had unleashed the surgical strike, but it was not encased politically, and the entire credit was given to army and rested with the army. And that credit should go to countrymen and should go to the army only, not to any party. And Congress party did not politicize it. So what happened that, one second, that though he is a Congress MP, but not picked up by Congress, but picked up by Mr. Modi.
Okay.
If he has a love for Mr. Modi, fine. We don't have any problem. He can have love. But
why should it be seen as love
just
for
for
Mr. Modi?
loving Modi ji, you demand the Congress, you distort the facts. That is not a, that can't be allowed.
Udit Raj, why are you saying that he is denigrating the Congress? Because if you look at what Dr. Shashi Tharoor said on X earlier today, that his remarks were preceded by the reference to the several attacks that have taken place in recent years, during which previous Indian responses, which was of course of the UPA, were both restraint and constraint, and that there was some kind of respect of the LOC and the international border, which was not done this time around.
What is this? This is very confusing, and he's trying to make fool of others. We understand English. And what he said, that never before anything was done, that border was crossed, LOC was crossed. And what does it mean? So intellectual dishonesty is more dangerous than economic dishonesty. They should admit it. What does it mean? Constant and all, these are jargons, terminology and jargons to use it. And of course, a few people get mesmerized by European accent of English. Where is the content? And you're playing with the words and jargons.
No.
Come to the fact, you said like this. You said, I regret it. You say that I retract what I said it.
No, but the question is, why should he? regret
And he
and
should be
regret.
courageous enough to accept that what he said, and he courageous enough to betray his state.
But Dr. Udit Raj, one view may be, who is the real Congress here? What is the Congress party's view? If you have senior leaders like Dr. Shashi Tharoor, former External Affairs Minister, Salman Khurshid, all of them who have spoken to me on this channel, they have lauded Operation Sindoor, said that it was a huge strategic success for the government, for Prime Minister Modi. It was a bold move. Then why should views of others within the Congress be seen? They are the real Congress. They are the veteran leaders of the Congress.
I salute army. Who is not giving the credit to the army? We have full respect. They don't have respect. Today only, MLA of BJP said that what the Air Force officers were doing, were they sleeping at the time of Operation Sindoor? So we have highest respect, not they. Total support. Out surgical strike or Operation Sindoor. That we object, and we must object. Credit goes to the countrymen. Credit goes to the all party. Credit goes to the army, not BJP.
All right, Dr. Udit Raj, thank you so much. Of course, we haven't seen the last in this saga which is playing out. Neerja Chaudhary, senior journalist, joins me. Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP. We have Nikhil Jain, a political analyst who actually supports the Congress party. Tuhin Sinha, the point being made by Udit Raj is that here is Dr. Shashi Tharoor denigrating the Congress. And if you look at series of tweets which have been put out by Pawan Khera, particularly because he is in charge of the media department, he says that previously in Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, the LOC was crossed. Surgical strikes did happen when it was about sending a message to Pakistan.
Well, good evening, Maria. Good evening, everybody. The Congress needs to grow out of its habit of bullying those leaders who stand up for national interests. This is a very perverse habit which the Congress party has developed in the last few years. Now, I will only refer to two situations which have caused a lot of anguish apparently in the Congress party. One is, of course, of Dr. Shashi Tharoor. Now, Dr. Shashi Tharoor has himself clarified through his tweet that he was referring to the acts of retribution post-terror attacks in the last few years. Besides an RTI query which was answered in August 2017, very categorically states that there was no prior surgical strike post that. Now, if the Congress has a different opinion, the Congress should wait and, for Shashi Tharoor to come back and have a conversation with him. To constantly, dispute what he's saying abroad is embarrassing the country. And the Congress party needs to realize that. I will give you one more example. Manish Tiwari very categorically said 2 days ago that the DGMO of Pakistan had called up the DGMO of India, and that is how the ceasefire happened. There was no role of a third party. Now the Congress, time and again has contradicted this and even contradicted it after Manish Tiwari's very categorical stand abroad. Now, why is the Congress party doing this? I think there is very clearly two different groups of Congress parties. One, the old-timers who still believe that safeguarding national interests is sacrosanct, and the other is Rahul Gandhi's Congress, which has a very strong urban Naxal influence, which does not care for national interests. But I think the Congress needs to introspect. This is not the time for mudslinging. This is not the time for bullying your own leaders. And I think they need to understand this.
Yes. Neerja Chaudhary, isn't it ironical that the party is actually dismissing the views of leaders who are very core, central to the party? I mean, these are the dyed-in-the-wool Congress leaders.
Yeah, these are very senior leaders of the party, very savvy leaders of the party who understand global affairs. And in the case of Shashi Tharoor and the others also, they are articulating India's stance in a very fluent manner. If you hear them, Congress could have been proud of that. Congress could have taken the credit for that. Instead, it's become Operation Tharoor versus Operation Sindoor. I mean, that is not. It's become government versus opposition and opposition, Congress versus Congress. when your multi-party delegation is out in global capitals trying to mobilize opinion of the world community in favor of India's stand. And what needed to come out was a united voice. That is the effort, at least, of people outside. But back home, this is how it's all getting played out. And that's what Dr. Tharoor has also clarified. This was about clarifying Operation Sindoor and what India's stand is. It wasn't to go into Dr. Manmohan Singh's achievements vis-a-vis surgical strikes made by him. If there, I mean, I don't remember it, but if there were, and they were not talked about very openly, somebody said, Dr. Tharoor could have come home and the party could have, sought an explanation for him. But to do it at this particular juncture, it actually weakens India's stand in global capital. So I don't know what the Congress, I agree with that. I really don't know what the Congress is about. Why they couldn't have waited for a few days to do all this, even if they had very serious reservations.
So, Nikhil Jain, one would say, of course, senior Congress leaders indicating to NDTV that there will be no action whatsoever and that this is more of a view of an individual leader. But, it's why take to Twitter to, criticize a leader who's not in India at the moment. He's part of a multi-party delegation. He is representing India on a global platform. He's presenting the India story, and all of them are doing so proudly. And why make it about such political bickering?
Mary, the problem starts with the fact that when we have a delegation, an all-party delegation of members of parliament being sent abroad to represent the Indian government's view, they're obligated to say what the Indian government asks them to do, asks them to say. That is what they must do. That is what they are doing.
No. All-party delegations do not mean Indian government's view. It essentially shows that the political class of India is speaking in one voice, which is needed at this point.
Maria, I would like to disagree with that. It is supposed to represent the India view, but at the end of the day, it is the executive's view that would be propounded to the world. It is the
legislature view because these are MPs and former MPs. So I think that's a wrong interpretation of it. Multi-party delegations have travelled not only in this government, they have been doing so for the last several decades.
Maria, I think we should agree to disagree because I very strongly believe that any all-party delegation, no matter which party is in power, should represent the view of the foreign department of the country, which would be handled by the Indian government. That being said, on the topic of politics about all of this, so when Shashi Tharoor says a certain thing that is not in sync with the Congress line, not in sync with what the Congress is saying in its domestic politics, it is the BJP that goes around and tries to make it political by saying, look, your MP is the one saying this, look, your MP is teaching you a lesson. It is but obvious that there would be leaders in the Congress party who would feel the need to, come out and contradict Dr. Tharoor when he's saying something that is blatantly inaccurate. And it is not me who's saying that. It is a 2016 reply by the then Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar to a parliamentary panel that said that surgical strikes have happened in the past as well. Lieutenant General Hooda, who was the GOC Northern Command, this is about Jaishankar. Lieutenant General D.S. Hooda has also come out on record and said that surgical strikes happened before PM Modi as well. And let's not forget Operation Ginger 2011, when the Indian Armed Forces crossed over the LOC, beheaded 3 Pakistani army soldiers and Jawans, and brought their heads and insignia back. So what Dr. Tharoor is saying today in Panama is incorrect. It's inaccurate. It, I feel, belittles what our forces have done, what the previous governments have done. And when an MP from the Congress is raising his voice, I think that's perfectly within his right to do that. I really don't understand why was the need for Dr. Tharoor to say that, because I'm sure for a man of his knowledge, intellect and skills, he would have known that cross LOC strikes did happen during the UP era and even before that. He was the Minister of State External Affairs during this period when Operation Ginger was carried out.
I think
so
it was
the
not
BJP
about,
that started the game of politics.
I agree with Neerja Chaudhary when she says that it was not about comparison of what the present regime has done versus Mr. Modi's predecessors. It was about what has been done in the context of Operation Sindoor and the nature of it, very different from what India did in the past. Dr. Tuhin Sinha, please come in.
Well, on the one hand, the Congress representative is saying that, the delegation is representing the Indian view, then they should, support the Indian view. I don't think this is the time for this mudslinging and for, repeated, discussion on the technicality of surgical strikes. Shashi Tharoor himself has made it very clear that he was speaking of India's retaliatory action insofar as Pakistani acts of terror go. And we have seen, it's a fact, I don't need to explain. After 26/11, Congress did nothing. After July, July 2006 attacks, where train attacks took place in Mumbai, killing over 200 people, the Congress did nothing. So I think, we don't need to explain this. But my simple point is that the Congress frustration is about something else. In 1994, when Vajpayee ji had represented India at Geneva, the entire BJP was so proud of the fact that, an opposition leader was considered worthy of representing India. Why don't we see the same pride in this Congress party? Why instead are they so frustrated at the fact that one of their leaders, a senior leader, by the way, a 4-time MP, has been chosen to represent India? I think the Congress needs to answer these questions, because somewhere, it shows the degeneration of the Congress mindset. They are simply incapable of thinking or acting in national interest at this point of time. They need to grow beyond the Kheras and the Supriya Srinaths of the world, who are basically trolls and whose idea of political discourse does not extend beyond trolling.
Okay, will you respond to that, Nikhil, quickly?
Absolutely. What Tuhin is saying about 26/11, that the Indian government at that time did not do something, he is grossly wrong on that. We did send all-party delegations to the world. We did start a cooperation with US and Israel on terrorism. We did initiate action to put Pakistan on the FATF grey list. We did initiate actions against David Headley and other perpetrators and have had them extradited. We did have the NIA question people. We did capture Kassab, put him on trial, and showed the world that it is Pakistan that sponsors the terrorism that happens in India against Indian citizens. So for him to come out and say that no action was taken is a gross misrepresentation of facts, and that is what the problem is. Tuhin is very well waxing eloquent about how we should not politicize it, but you look at the tone and tenor of words that he's using on this debate, that the leaders of today's Congress represent an urban Naxal mindset. What even is an urban Naxal? Because so far as I remember, 2 months ago, the Prime Minister was calling people who were asking for a caste census as urban Naxals, only to come out himself and say that caste census is what the country needs. This is a problem with the BJP, that you expect propriety out of the Congress and other opposition parties, but when it comes to you, you have nothing to show. Why did you need to make it so political when you were choosing Dr. Tharoor? Why could you not cede to the 4 names that were given by the Congress party? If you have to respect opposition parties while sending out an all-party delegation, you should not be running your stake. You should have respected their view, but you did not. Then you politicized it.
In all fairness, Dr. Shashi Tharoor is an exceptional speaker, the most articulate, who's there in the opposition space, perhaps the best one who could articulate so effectively. So it was all right for him to represent a very important delegation and lead that delegation. So I'm not too sure why should it be decided by within the party. And, So there has to be a respect for your own leader. He is a 4-term MP and a former minister. That should be respected. Yes, Tuhin, quickly respond, and then I'll give the last word.
I have a simple question. Is there any specific reason why the Congress, disqualified Tharoor from that list of 4 names? I mean, has it got to do with the fact that at one point of time he wanted to contest the presidential elections in the Congress? Because other than that, being the head of the parliamentary group on external affairs minister, he anyway directly qualifies. He's a natural choice. And of course, the fact that, his experience in the IAF, the fact that he's a 4-term MP, probably one of the senior most members of parliament from Congress, automatically make him a right fit. But why was the Congress so hell-bent? Where does Gaurav Gogoi stand? Today he has confessed that he has spent, a good amount of time in Assam after ducking the issue, after a good amount of time in Pakistan after ducking the issue for months. So I think, the credibility of Gaurav Gogoi, their choice, and of Shashi Tharoor, there was a difference of heaven and earth between them. Why does the Congress not realize this?
Fine. Neerja Chaudhary, you get the last word and the last word tonight.
Yeah, no, my short point is, if the Congress leaders felt, that Shashi Tharoor had failed to include the surgical strikes earlier on, somebody could have picked up the phone and said, hey, you forgot this. In your next press conference, included that, yes, during so-and-so's time, these surgical strikes were also made. It could have been included very simply. Is बार कांग्रेस छोटी politics खेल रही है?
Elaborate on this. Neerja, this choti politics that you have talked about, that's a lot of wisdom in it.
Grand old party of India. It could have ridden this.
Yes.
And you have your tall leaders out there. It does something for you as a party. It does something for India, all parties standing together and speaking in one voice. Ride it even if you feel some points were left out. All this could have been dealt with later.
Could the Congress have waited? Yes, they could have. Could a leader within the party have dialed Dr. Tharoor saying, as Nirja is suggesting in the next press conference, talk about what was done in the previous regime? Perhaps yes. Why make it about such kind of mudslinging, personal attacks, regret, issue an apology? That's taking it too far, Nirja.
Well, I mean, one feels disappointed. When the stakes are very high, I would have thought the government might even think now that you have to rally together world capitals, you've had delegations go, you may need to do diplomacy behind the scenes also in the weeks to come. The government could have constituted all-party, 2-3 groups to go to different world capitals and take this process forward. And the opposition members could have been part of it, those who are articulate and understand issues. But, if it's going to become so difficult to work together, it feels you're leaving, a bit sad about everything.
Nirja Chaudhary, really appreciate your time here on The Last Word. Tuhin Sinha, Nikhil Jain, thank you for joining us. That's all from me on this edition of The Last Word. The entire discussion on NDTV.com, and Vishnu is right here in the studio.
All right, thanks very much, Maria. We've got some very exciting news coming up, very important remarks by the Air Force Chief. We've got the former Vice Chief of the Air Force, he retired just on the 30th of April, talking about the significance of those remarks. We'll also be looking at what Trump's doing to educational institutions in the United States. Good evening, welcome. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the program this evening, India's Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal Amar Singh has raised concerns over delays in major defence procurement projects. Speaking at an official event, the Air Chief said, and I quote, "Timelines are crucial. Every project I can think of has been delayed. Every project. Why can't we meet promised timelines?" Now, these remarks are crucial and come at a time when the Indian Air Force, coming out of Op Sindoor, has had a ton of learning experiences and just cannot lose momentum in building up its strength. Next up on the show, the Trump administration's battle with Harvard intensifies after the government revoked its ability to enroll international students, citing anti-Semitism. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the move, but the case against Harvard continues. Meanwhile, student visa interviews have been paused globally for social media vetting, and visas for Chinese students face aggressive revocation. These actions have sparked lawsuits and diplomatic tensions, threatening US higher education's global standing. And finally, later on the program, tensions continue to rise as Shashi Tharoor's praise for Prime Minister Modi's policies and his government-nominated role in Operation Sindoor clash with the Congress's stance. The party sidelining Tharoor has questioned his loyalty while he insists on speaking for India. This rift highlights deeper divides, sparking speculation about the future of Shashi Tharoor with the Congress party. A quick look first at a little bit of the context of what we are talking about before we bring in a very, very special guest, the former Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force, Air Marshal Dharkar, who retired just a couple of weeks ago. Now, what we are talking about are delays in the procurement process in the Indian Air Force. That's what this man, the Air Chief Marshal, referred to today. In fact, going to the extent of saying that virtually every acquisition has been delayed. So let's go through a couple of the key points of the Indian Air Force's procurements and what he actually means over there. This is the Tejas fighter, the Tejas Mark 1A fighter. It's a stepping stone to a much more substantive fighter. That's called the Tejas Mark 2. The date of the first flight of the Tejas Mark 1A, not the Tejas, the Mark 1A, February 2nd, 2020. On February 2021, there was a contract for 83 aircraft which was signed. At the moment, you've got just one aircraft which is in service. That's unacceptable, and this is just a stepping stone for something much larger. That's not even come as yet, the Tejas Mark 2. The next aircraft we can talk about is this. Now, if you think this is a rail aircraft, it's not, it's a model. It's the AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. The date of the first flight projected for late 2028. The date of the order, still no firm order. The number in service, obviously zero. But then why are we talking about a plane which has not even made its first flight? Because the real worry is on Pakistan acquiring a Chinese stealth platform called the JF-35, which is likely to be inducted into the Pakistan Air Force in small numbers starting this year. If that is to happen, and India has not even prototyped this jet, the AMCA, then the Indian Air Force is perhaps in great trouble. Let's move to another one, and we can go on and on with this. This is the IJT, the Intermediate Jet Trainer. It was offered as an indigenous solution to a very important requirement. Remember, fighting wars comes if you have efficiently trained pilots. And India, if you're building fighter jets, then surely we could have an intermediate jet trainer already and done. Well, the first flight was in March 12, 2003. At the moment, no order has been placed. The number of aircraft in service is zero. Let's move to another particular category. This is a horrible story because this is something the Indian Air Force needs. It needs mid-air refueling tankers. You've got 6 in service. They're off the old Russian IL-78 variant. The Air Force felt that they need to extend the ability to deploy far away. They need to extend the ability of their fighters to remain in air, so they needed to refuel. So in 2006, they put up a demand for 6 more tankers, a request for proposal. It's now 2025. The numbers inducted zero. The numbers are absolutely zero at this stage. So this being the case, there are a lot of queries and concerns about the pace of induction. Here's what the Air Chief said today.
Timelines is a big issue. That is where that Vachan part comes in. So once a timeline is given, not a single project that I can think of has been completed on time. So this is something where we have to look at. Why should we promise something which cannot be achieved? While signing the contract itself, some of the times we are sure that it is not going to come up. But we just signed the contract. Uske baad dekhenge kya karna. Obviously, then the process gets vitiated.
Well, joining us now, a very special guest. We're joined by Marshal S.P. Dharkar, who recently retired as the Vice Chief of the Indian Air Force. He's been a MiG-27 pilot, an exceptional fighter pilot. Besides being the former Vice Chief, he's also commanded the Eastern Air Command. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us. I think some of the points made by the Air Force Chief is actually stating it quite directly, but perhaps that's the need of the hour. What he said in terms of timelines, and I quote, "This is crucial. Every project I can think of has been delayed. Why can't we meet promised timelines?" How badly is this impacting the operational capability of the Indian Air Force?
Good evening, Vishnu. Well, you covered a large number of projects over there in the beginning. And while you covered the big ticket ones, what the chief is pointing out today in his usual candid and very straightforward manner when we were speaking at the CII seminar, he was mentioning about various contracts, and he actually was not necessarily referring only to the major ones like the ones you covered. Yeah. Because in some of those, what he was pointing out also was in terms of the production delays that we observed and the antecedent issues that then come up both in terms of capability development and capacity building. In both manners, whether it is in the big ticket contracts or even if it is about weapons and weaponry, spares and the like, what he was probably referring to was how meeting timelines is essential in order to stay ahead of the game. Everything that gets delayed actually then results in, has a number of secondary and tertiary effects in the background, whether it is related to training like you covered, whether it is related in terms of how associated issues get both done or delayed as a result, and so how overall capability then takes a beating.
Marshal, it's not just about the actual manufacture of aircraft, it's also the entire process of the government placing orders. What I haven't spoken about over here, for example, is that 114 aircraft deal. That's nowhere in sight. I mean, we've been talking chief after chief after chief. Yes, we'll get it done. Yes, we'll get it done. It's still not been done. And, we face a twin threat of Pakistan and China. how crucial is it to get, for example, that 114 aircraft deal done really fast?
Oh, without a doubt, and I'm certain everybody sees it in quite the same light, that it is a critical requirement, and I'm certain there are people working in the background to make it happen. The problem is actually twofold. One, of course, that it comes at significant cost, and so one has to manage it within available budgets and the like. The second is in terms of how this would marry up with what is our own intent of going Atmanirbhar, which today's world is an essential, because you really cannot rely on an external agency to be providing you the equipment you require to ensure your security. That Atmanirbharta, and this government has been really pushing that particular agenda from the very beginning. And actually, we should have been doing it even further backwards in history. But when you merge that with a concurrent requirement, a requirement at least till the time we build those capabilities in-house and field them in relevant numbers and in adequate capacity, what we would require is what you just pointed out. And I'm certain everybody is seized of that. While that be true, global trends, geopolitics, the relevance of what technology is made available, whether it now involves an entirely new line, what would be the challenges in maintaining those and in keeping them operational in terms of both the acquisition and subsequent operational utilization, they all marry up into one major challenge. Of course, at the bottom of everything is budget.
That's always the problem, isn't it, Air Marshal? If we had infinite budgets, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That, of course, is true, and everything is resource crunched. And especially when one is looking forward to, having development and infrastructure development and then uplifting of the masses. When you do all that, there would be a limitation, necessarily. At the same time, I'm certain, especially with recent trends and with whatever is happening all across the globe, I'm certain people in the background are working really hard in order to push that 114 that you spoke about.
There's another point I picked up on what the Air Chief said. He said that once the AMCA, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, which is a stealth platform, does come out, it has to be of the current generation, right? He didn't refer to it as fifth generation. Now that's important because we are already seeing the Chinese move beyond the fifth generation. And considering the fact, with 2 prototypes in the air, considering the fact that this is going to be flying perhaps in a prototype form only by 2028, 2030, perhaps even after that, and it may not get inducted in any numbers before 2035. If it's not current, it's fairly pointless. So therefore, what the chief is saying is that there has to be a jump in the technology. Obviously, that means more R&D, because the Air Force cannot be affording to buy planes which are not contemporary, right?
Quite right. One thing about timelines is also the fact that technology continues to develop. And technology in the aerospace domain develops just as fast, both in terms of the aircraft and their capabilities themselves, sensors, sensor fusion, and the like. Weapons also have to match up, because should you have a platform wherein weapon integration takes some amount of time thereafter, then everything results in delayed acquisition of a given capability. And when you have adversaries who are both building those technologies and fielding them in much faster pace, then it becomes even more critical. Also then, invariably what happens is delayed timelines result in some kind of qualitative requirement creep, because one recognizes that there are newer capabilities out there, there are newer technologies out there that need to be now integrated and integrated fast so that you retain that, or at least don't lose out on an edge that an adversary is gaining. In which case then that timeline issue and that ability to ensure that your technology that has been incorporated into whatever you're making is current is a criticality. Absolutely.
What the chief also said is we need both capability and capacity. Now, for so long, we didn't have that capacity in industry in India. I'm talking about private sector industry. We now have that. And I think it's important to also focus on some areas of excellence. For example, Dynamatics is one company which comes to mind, which builds the fuselage structures of the Tejas, the mastered carbon composite airframes that has many spin-off uses. There are other companies which are really picking up, certainly in the drone space, but we'll talk about that perhaps later on. Do you believe that our industrial base is now maturing to a point where they can at least build advanced aerostructures and therefore take that pressure off Hindustan Aeronautics?
Definitely. And in terms of both taking off some pressure, as well as now putting in more effort, whether it is in terms of research and development or in just the manufacturing, I think we have much more capability today in-house in India. What remains to be seen is to be able to harness it, because no matter what, it is a numbers game. There is economy of scale, and in the aerospace domain, there is not enough scale. So then one has to accept that there would be a little amount of sunk cost, and that it would be a relatively more expensive, at least at the initial outset, a relatively expensive use of technology in order to move forward. But I think it exists today. We have enough both big players as well as a number of relatively smaller players who are willing to jump into it with new technology, harnessing manufacturing abilities that they are picking up from across the globe. What remains now is for us to be able to put this together as one composite whole and be able to utilize individual abilities in various different segments in order to actually put it together. I think it is possible. All it requires is a little bit of more, let's say, legislative push, and at the same time, a little bit of opportunity, as well as a little bit of less risk-averse behavior from industry.
But Marshal, I think, again, going back to the point on budgets, our defense budget as a percentage of our GDP is very low. I mean, it's similar to what it was in 1962 or so. Now, that may not be an entirely good way of measuring it, because our overall economy was also quite small in 1962. But be that as it may, we need an enhanced defense GDP, not just for weapon systems acquisition, but also for research and development. We can't keep talking about Make in India and Atmanirbharta unless we have the technology. There's stuff that no one is going to sell you. So when the DRDO chief, another exceptional man, says that, look, if you want Made in India and Atmanirbharta, you need R&D. So how important is it for us to step up our defense budget just to fuel R&D, the next generation of engineers, the next generation of scientists, people who have nothing to do with flying the planes, but people who are the minds behind designing it, understanding the future of AI, machine learning, weapon systems development, what have you. Isn't that what this should really be about?
You know, about 2 decades ago, we started with exploiting our soft skills. And thereafter, we've gone on exploiting our ability in software. And I guess there is enough opportunity today now to harness that kind of talent. While, global trends are actually helping us do that, because if you look at how Europe and the Western world is starting to rely more and more of homegrown employment, there may be just that much opportunity for us to harness Indian brain and prevent that brain drain. Given that opportunity now, as a result of global trends, it may be then possible to actually utilize this into better R&D. It requires a little more of, infusion of basically money, both in the public sector as well as in the private sector. And I think the time is arrived to make that happen. When you look at some of these technologies,
Go ahead, sir.
AI, quantum, fact remains that much of what you find in terms of the research background, the academics who do it outside in foreign countries, many of them are of Indian origin, which means then actually that if we could harness that talent at home, we would be so much better off. I think that there is opportunity now, and I think this is recognized both at the government level as well as private level. Because, and here somehow, while many refer to startups to provide that opportunity for you, I don't really think startups have that kind of adequate background capacity in order to work it forward. I think
what about drones, though?
Medium and
drone
large
startups have done well.
segments.
Drone startups have done well, Marshal.
Yeah, yes. But then you would also recognize that those startups look at very niche abilities in very small segments. And to build that to some reasonable capacity or some reasonable capability, and then work it to improving overall, let's talk about aerospace at this time, may require a number of iterations. And in that manner, I would believe that some of the medium and the bigger companies would do probably better in that regard. Whether, I really don't want to take names here, but there's enough opportunity in homegrown IT talent to make it happen.
Marshal, I won't let you go, obviously, before we speak about Operation Sindoor. Now, you retired on the 30th of April. You missed all the action. Your friends say that it was a conspiracy of some sort, but we'll keep that out for the moment.
It was happened by time. I happened to be born on the 29th April, so on the 30th of April, it was time for me to hang my uniform.
Marshal, the point is that you would have been right at the helm of affairs as Vice Chief, or along with the Air Chief, obviously, to hone tactics, to work with the technology available, not just with fighter pilots, but also surface-to-air missiles. The imagery we have on our screen now, these videos released by the government, showcase precision hits. Decades of training resulted in these incredible strikes going in, which we've independently corroborated with satellite imagery. Could you tell us what it feels like today, sir, for you to see pictures like that, where we've taken out hangars, taken out parts of air bases, runways, underground facilities potentially? What is it a culmination of?
It is an immensely proud feeling. There is tremendous regret that I wasn't around to be part of the game. Notwithstanding that part, I think our people did extremely well. And when I talk about people, I'm talking about people across the entire domain. This actually was done at every level. It was a national effort. And not just the services. I'm certain the services had enough political backing. I'm certain the services had enough cross-domain political and otherwise backing. And that is how this happened. The images speak for themselves. And I'm certain everything that we heard as to how we had an adversary who quickly wanted us to cease taking on such further act was telling by itself. Of course, it was immensely a proud feeling, as any Indian would have felt too.
A final question to you. Now, I know that you know too much to tell me which weapon was used on which target. So I won't ask you that question. But if you offer to volunteer that information, I'd certainly welcome it. But be that as it may, my question more seriously is this. We've got, I would say, some of the most world-class air-to-ground missiles now, whether it's the BrahMos, the Rampage, the Scalp, the Crystal Maze, the Hammer. In the ranges that they operate, the technology they infuse, would you agree with me when I say that this is absolutely world-class for our requirements?
Without a doubt. And you saw the effects of how the utilization of all those weapons actually was. And if I were to draw a parallel, if you recollect Balakot, and that question about as to whether those two small holes on one particular building were good enough to say that they were targeted well, we had a similar hole this time, and we also saw what the images of the inside of that particular building were. I think that case also was kind of substantiated by what Operation Sindoor did. And I think it has actually vindicated our stand of several years that we managed to do it pretty well even then.
Marshal, always wonderful speaking to you. And, this really goes to show the prowess of the Indian Air Force against a formidable rival. Let's face it, the Pakistan Air Force is a near peer, but by the end of the day, it was the Pakistan government which came onto the ceasefire table as a result of the weight of these Indian Air Force assaults. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us.
So very much.
Well, some breaking news coming in from the United States, where a federal judge weighing Harvard University's lawsuit challenging the Trump administration's ban on enrolling international students has said that they would expand the temporary block on its enforcement. And Vishal, my colleague Vishal joins us now for more on this. In simple terms, what does this mean? Does this mean that Harvard University can carry on with international admissions and go about business as usual?
Well, Vishnu, it's a temporary win for Harvard for now. It remains to be seen how Trump administration moves forward from here, because this case has been going on for the last few weeks. This was the second time this judge, Alice Burroughs, gave this reprieve to Harvard. This is a temporary win, as I mentioned. Trump administration has been clamping down hard on Harvard to pressure it into the submission and to force it to accept some of the terms. Harvard has been relentless in its fight. It has rejected almost all of Trump's demands. And Harvard's president, Alan Garber, has risen up as the unlikely hero. And he had he just received almost a 2-minute standing ovation during the Harvard graduation ceremony. So, incidentally, today it was also the Harvard's graduation ceremony of the 2025 batch. So this win coincides with that occasion as well. So it's a bittersweet, sweet moment for many graduate students. They will be passing out with some, some tension in their mind, but also they will have some kind of relief that they have this temporary win, and they, for now, they can stay in the US. But they
all
will
right, Vishal,
definitely-
we leave it over there for the moment. I'm joined now by Siddharth Iyer, CEO of One Step Global, looks closely at international admissions, Mandy Zhang, a Harvard student, and Professor Andrew Latham. Thank you, all of you, very much for being with us. Professor Latham, let me come to you first. Do you believe that the bottom line is this, that whatever happens at Harvard, presuming that the US government keeps going after Harvard and other educational institutions, that America's ability to attract top-tier international talent will disappear, that the quality of education in America will suffer immensely, perhaps for years?
Well, there's a couple of issues on the table, one of which is that the Trump administration has declared war on higher ed in the United States around diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-Semitism, and all of those things. And that's partly justified. You know, American higher ed has veered off course over the last couple of decades. But there are some other issues on the table, one of which is academic freedom. Another one of which is the revenue stream which international students generate. Indian and Chinese students pay the full freight, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year for 4 years. And that subsidizes other American students who don't pay anything even close to that. So, you know, it's complicated. On the one hand, my view is that the Trump administration going after Harvard and Columbia and Yale and Princeton is partly justified. On the other hand, it's really scary to me because the potential downside here is enormous.
Mandy, one of the moves which the US government has announced is social media vetting as part of the process, to get visas. So consular visa, access for visa interviews has been stopped for the moment. And once it restarts, there would be this expanded social media vetting. Do you believe that that makes any sense?
I don't think that makes any sense. That is against the First Amendment right in the US. It's basically like if you post something bad about Trump, then Trump is just going to take action against you, which I think is so dangerous. And it resembles and is exactly like an authoritarian government. Thousands of students who come here to Harvard to learn and to grow and contribute to the US innovation research are now waking up in fear. I have a lot of friends who are international, and I also have a lot of suite mates who are also international. And I think this is not just like a political decision, it's a personal one. And Harvard and universities across the country depend on international students because they bring perspectives and skills. And let's be honest, a significant portion of tuition dollars that help fund scholarships and research for all students. But more than that, they bring a lot of humanity and they bring a lot of joy to people on campus. And now Trump is just using social media as a political attack to target students who may be against him. And I think that's really dangerous.
Siddharth, in terms of the potential impact this may have on Indian students going to the United States, the numbers have been absolutely huge, the largest international student cohort of late. Do you expect to see a sharp drop?
Well, there is certainly going to be an impact in terms of, the start of the course for the fall 2025 intake, with the visas now being put on hold. I think US universities to a large extent are preparing themselves, for an outcome of this, where there are going to be delayed starts. There will be virtual classes and sessions like happened during the COVID times. But just to add to what Mandy was saying, let me quantify those numbers for you. It was $10 billion that Indian students contributed, to the overall US economy with the education and with the help of what they paid in terms of tuition fee, in terms of stay costs, and other expense. International students overall, they are $40 billion. And our Indian student volumes and numbers continue to grow in the US as a destination. It was almost 268,000 in 2023 when we actually overtook China as the top international student market, at least on that front. So without a doubt, it's certainly going to affect the confidence. But given a fact that there is always going to be a skill-based requirement of Indian students in STEM OPT programs to fulfill gaps in AI, software engineering, biotech, and data science, Indian students are always going to be in demand. So it's very unlikely that the US is going to shut doors on all of them, which is certainly going to affect their GDP in a very direct way.
Professor Latham, one of the moves that has been announced is that the Trump administration is trying to identify Chinese students for visa revocation. Now that's perhaps very difficult because they're trying to figure out links between these students and the Chinese Communist Party or involvement in quote-unquote critical fields and then throw them out. Again, it just seems to be a very deliberate targeting and on the face of it, potentially illegal.
I'm going to say three things, one of which is that the Chinese students that are in my classes, and I have a lot of international students from China, when they study for 4 years in the United States, they change their minds. They're not communists, they're liberals. And when they go home, if they do go home, I think that's an important transformative thing. They actually are evangelizing liberalism back home. And so in 15 or 20 years, maybe China won't be communist anymore because of the students that we educate. Second, Indian Americans are the wealthiest demographic in the United States. And increasingly, they're the most powerful political demographic in the United States. Why in the world would any Republican or Democrat government want to irritate that demographic? It is politically suicidal. And what I mean by that is that the Indian population in this country is wealthier than the people who came over on the descendants of the people who came over on the Mayflower. In terms of medical schools and professional schools, yeah. I mean, really, this is the dominant demographic in the United States. And finally, I would just want to say that what in the world are we doing in terms of advancing American national interests? Why are we cutting off our nose to spite our face? Sorry, I'm born in England, grew up Irish, grew up Canadian, immigrated to Canada. You can see the thing on my shirt here.
Yep.
But I think that cutting off your nose to spite your face thing, I think that resonates throughout the Anglosphere.
A final question to you, Mandy. There's this huge legal battle right now. The future of Harvard, and it's almost unbelievable to be thinking or saying this, that there is a doubt on the future of Harvard and thousands of students on campus. Are you worried about, you completing your degree or, significant interference to your own education?
I think in the beginning, we were all scared, but we have been fighting back hard. Harvard College Democrats and also Harvard Students for Freedom. Students, faculty, alumni, and advocates have, spoken out loudly. We've been doing protests multiple times a month. Back in 2020, when the Trump admin tried to force international students to leave the country if their classes moved online due to COVID, Harvard and MIT filed a lawsuit within 48 hours. They won. Now as we face this new wave of restrictions, students are organizing again, just like what we've done in every part of history. Just this week and 2 days ago, we organized huge protests covered by Associated Press. We were all speaking out against Trump, and we've all been signing petitions and also reaching out to our representatives. And we've seen students, be there for each other. And I think we're going to continue that fight, and we're not going to back down. So I am not that worried.
All right. Well, let's see what finally happens. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us today. We're going to take a short break at this stage. Up after that, Shashi Tharoor's visit to the United States, to several countries, in fact, around the world, and his comments in defense of Op Sindoor have drawn ire in the Congress party. Where does he actually stand within his own party? Shopon Dasgupta joins me as we sort of look at the politics around Shashi Tharoor. That's up next.
गोल्ड प्लस ऑप्टिमिस्टिक रिफ्लेक्टिव ग्लास लगाओ, धूप की गर्मी को दूर भगाओ और बिजली का बिल भी बचाओ।
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv, only on NDTV 24/7.
These are the visuals that are coming in. Let's go full frame with it.
For every big news story.
You can't defend the indefensible, Ruchira Kamboj, but that's what Pakistan has been doing for a very, very long time.
We're sifting through a lot of information. Some is right, some is not right. But I think we are
India tunes in to NDTV.
We put on air.
In fact, on NDTV, like we've been doing for the last few hours, we've been
for fast, clear, and credible news.
We've also been, busting a lot of misinformation that's been coming in.
When I was standing on the road, I saw these lights going off
NDTV,
in the sky, and I could hear
where credibility
sounds of like
comes
what sound
first.
like blasts happening.
When Pakistan started shelling and first shell landed here, you can see this.
Well, we have reached at ground zero, and this village is
NDTV. First, fast, factual. More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard
gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate.
Day that comes by when the Congress party isn't criticizing one of its most senior leaders, in this case, Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor has now been traveling across many countries in support of the country and along with a party delegation of many parties, a delegation of many parties talking about Op Sindoor, talking about India's fight against terrorism and how, in many senses, Pakistan is the epicenter of global terrorism. But are there politics back home which really affect Shashi Tharoor within his party? Joining us now to look at this, Shopon Dasgupta. Thanks, Shopon, very much for being with us. Some would say that Shashi Tharoor has shifted his political stance somewhat towards a more nationalist position. One which perhaps some in the Congress party feel incongruous with what they've been saying or speaking of Op Sindoor. Would you agree?
Well, Vishnu, there's no denying that Shashi has become the sort of flavor of the season in various ways. Some in a way which he would have liked it to be, and in other ways which are probably not entirely favorable to him. Now, I think the real issue which you're addressing about the hostility amongst a section of congressmen towards his participation in this delegation and the manner in which he's been very consistently supportive of the government and the national position post-Pahalgam. Now, I think one way of looking at this is that Shashi has moved towards what you call a more nationalist position. The other way of looking at it is that the Congress itself has moved quite seriously and inexplicably in a direction which goes against the very traditions of this party. Let's not forget that this was the party of the national movement. This was the party of Indira Gandhi. Nehru, no doubt, had tempered his nationalist rhetoric in various ways. But Indira Gandhi was there. Even in his own way, Rajiv Gandhi was very robust in standing up for the country and in every way. So I get this very eerily uncomfortable feeling that the Congress at times wants to resemble the left wing of the Democratic Party in the United States. That many of its social assumptions and many of the positions, a very wokish type of positions which they've been taking, are actually the outcome of American educated inheritors who now occupy certain very important positions in the party, and which is quite detached from the party's natural instincts. And I think Shashi, to a very large extent, belonging to a generation like mine, which we are inherently suspicious of that, and who've repudiated that old Vietnam tradition of the 60s, finds himself out on a limb as far as his party is concerned, but not necessarily as far as the country is concerned.
Where does he stand with the BJP? Does he have a future in the BJP?
Well, Shashi is a personal friend of mine. We grew up together in the same college and we were in the same class. His ideological proclivities are somewhat at odds with the BJP. And he's tried to make a lot of ideological justification of why he's taken positions as regards Hindutva, etc., which is a little different from that of the BJP. Although the differences are not as stark as people make it out to be. Now, I would think that it would require a lot of agonizing and sort of self-justification. He would have to reinvent his entire social profile and political profile if he was to join the BJP. I hope that the BJP is large-hearted enough to include him, were he to say that he wants to have a future in it. But I think the difficulty will be of Shashi. He comes from a certain ecosystem, and that ecosystem is not inherently or naturally inclined towards looking upon anybody in the BJP very favorably. Although it's changed quite a lot. All the Babalogs of yesteryear, particularly in Uttar Pradesh, appear to have joined the BJP and are making their future there. But yes, Shashi will, I hope he does, but I think there will be the awkward moments.
What about Shashi Tharoor and his internal sort of battles within the Congress party, perhaps to gain ascendancy in Kerala?
Yeah, I think that's a more serious issue, really. The point is that I think Shashi somehow has come to the conclusion that the Congress doesn't have much of a future in national politics in the short term. Therefore, if he was to make himself relevant, it would be far better to use his considerable national profile and popularity, and he has a certain cult following of sorts, and use it in Kerala, where there is a decent chance of the Congress beating the left in the next election. So if the Congress was wise, it would use Shashi as a face. But as happens in local politics, there are a lot of entrenched interests. There are people who say, look, we've been slogging in the constituencies for the past 10 years or so and 15 years or so. And we know the sort of grassroots politics. And here is a paratrooper who just comes in and says, on the strength of a sort of glamour quotient, I should do this thing. Now, it's something which the Congress leadership will have to take a call on. I somehow get the feeling they're not going to be very inclined towards Shashi given this particular thing. But even from, there is that perennial conflict which every politician who has a national profile faces in the constituencies, is that the local guys think, oh God, this guy's an interloper. He's just come in and he's trying to grab all the popularity, etc. It's a natural thing. It's nothing unique to Shashi. Shashi is feeling it at the moment.
Do you believe the Congress party has the space within its structure to allow an independent voice like Shashi Tharoor?
Well, all political parties should have an enlarged scope for dissent, and dissent within a certain framework. And that framework should be large and generous and should take into account various little angularities, some of which may be social angularities, some of which may be ideological angularities. I think the richness of the Indian political tradition will come about when political parties become more aggregate parties rather than ideological parties. And this is not a uniquely new formulation of mine. This is something which I borrowed from Mr. Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee in the 70s when they used that. How to move away from narrow ideology into becoming a far more of an aggregation of various tendencies. So I think if the BJP, for instance, becomes a more expansive nationalist party and the Congress becomes a more social democratic, left of center political, but it'll be good for India. It'll be good for the Indian political tradition.
How do you look at the remarks made by, let's say, Rahul Gandhi when he hit out at the foreign minister for apparently having told Pakistan before our military operations began that we're beginning our military operations? I ask this because on the one hand, you've got the senior leader of the Congress party saying this, and on the other hand, you've got Shashi Tharoor defending Operation Sindoor and explaining why it happened.
Well, I think it's very unfortunate that the leader of opposition, and remember, he is the leader of opposition, that's a constitutional position, that's a very, very important position. And if that person actually strikes on a discordant note and becomes a contrarian in a sort of unacceptable sort of way, I think there's wrong. It would suggest that somehow the Indian actions post-Pahalgam were dictated only by party considerations rather than the outpouring of national sentiment, which actually was the case. So I think Rahul Gandhi, it was ill-judged, his position which he's taken. And I think after the position which the Congress took in the Kargil War, if you recall, and you should recall the Kargil War because you were quite active at that time. Kargil War, then post that the various things in 2015 and 19, they made awkward noises, but this is going a bit too far. As you can see, most of the people who've joined the delegation, whether it's Anand Sharma, whether it's Manish, whether I don't know if Ghulam is still in the party or not. But the point is that there are sensible congressmen, middle of the road, mainstream congressmen who recognize that there is a time for dissent and there is a time for solidarity.
The entire debate on who in the Congress delegation should have been picked, that's something that obviously didn't go down with the Congress leadership. They felt that, others, and they needed to have a say in that. How do you look at that entire debate?
Well, inevitably a little bit of domestic politics does creep into that thing. Like in the Trinamool one, Mr. Yusuf Pathan was unceremoniously dumped, and the favored nephew was taken on board. So they would say that, why have one rule for the Trinamool and one rule for the Congress? these are certain, issues which will, but I think there was a certain insistence as far as the government was concerned that people like Manish Tiwari, Shashi Tharoor should actually, and even to the Anand Sharma in South Africa, should be accommodated because they could be effective in that sense. But in all this thing, in all these debates and all these discussions on who should constitute the delegation, we sometimes need to have a far more critical and a closer look as to what the delegation has achieved and what it should tell us about Indian diplomacy. Did in some way Indian diplomacy lack a political edge which the delegation tried to fill in? These are questions which will come in after we get a complete report of how they fared and what was the response in various countries.
You've said something that I have to ask you. Do you believe that Indian diplomacy has been inadequate in Op Sindoor, which is why we've had to do this?
The word inadequate is not mine.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that, in dealing with such a complex and sort of headline grabbing incident like the tensions between India and Pakistan, given also the nuclear aspect, which are also there, you need to have traditional diplomacy complemented by what I would call a political approach. Now, that political approach, in my view, sometimes was not there. But I don't expect the normal Indian Foreign Service officers to do that. So there are times when you need to complement that with other things. For instance, do we know that in the European Parliament, the type of solidarity, the support, the consistent support we get for India is provided by the group which is called the far right and is considered a complete untouchable as far as maybe the diplomats are concerned. But they need to be addressed. And now these are political issues which have to be dealt with in a different way. So one size fits all does not always work. That's all I'm saying. It's not a criticism. It's a suggestion that you expand the parameters of diplomacy.
All right. Shobhana, great speaking to you. Thank you very much. It is an interesting situation with Shashi Tharoor. I would suggest there are wheels within wheels, which you probably know about and which we'll have to find out about. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, joining us now to give us his sense on Shashi Tharoor and the fact that the Congress party criticizes him, it seems, virtually every day, his own party. I'm not joined now by Rashid Kidwai. Thank you, Mr. Kidwai, very much for being with us. Do you believe that Shashi Tharoor's days in the Congress party are essentially numbered?
Not really, Vishnu. I think Mr. Shashi Tharoor is a very astute politician. He understands Congress dynamics. He has a way with words. So what Shashi Tharoor has said abroad, it doesn't cross the Lakshman Rekha of party discipline. You may find him at variance. He fought, after all, the Congress president election. Had he won in September 2023, he would have been Congress president. Just to think of it, the Congress president has become a flag bearer or a cheerleader of Narendra Modi government abroad. So that is something little disturbing. But I think the Congress dynamics are such that there is war of attrition going on. There are a lot of people are acting on behalf of KC Venugopal. We must understand that trouble with Shashi Tharoor is not, his fight with Rahul Gandhi or Mallikarjun Kharge, but with KC Venugopal, who's a AICC General Secretary in charge of organization. Mr. Tharoor, nurses an ambition of becoming, Chief Minister of Kerala. Remember, elections in Kerala are due early next year. Mr. KC Venugopal is also harboring the same ambition. So this is the kind of thing. The background is battlefield, I would say, is Kerala, and what we are seeing is a war of attrition.
Why does the Congress party, or why is the Congress party not willing to accept the remarks that Shashi Tharoor has made abroad in defense of Op Sindoor? Is this not something that essentially should be uniting the Congress party with the rest of the country?
So I think Congress party views it as a as a political thing. Mr. Tharoor is within his rights to be saying, and most people who are part of that government delegation, 7 government delegations, is saying more or less the same thing. The problem is that it takes two to tango at the domestic front. Vishnu, we are seeing every day, every second day, Prime Minister, none other than Prime Minister Narendra Modi, making a mocking or questioning the Congress nationalist credentials about what happened in 1947, that how the POK could not be, retained with rest of India, and all other things. And you look at the social media campaign by both political parties. So it is, Rahul Gandhi is being described as Jaichand, as Mir Jafar. There was a picture of him being, in Pakistan's now Field Marshal, that Asif Munir's outfit. So all kind of things. The Congress is being compared with the, Pakistan's Lashkar-e-Taiba and other militant terrorist outfits. So there is a lot of trust deficit. Now the Congress cannot, as a political party, cannot abandon its political role just because, the 7 delegations are traveling abroad and showcasing India's war against terrorism. And when they are faced with the challenge at the domestic front, they give it back. And that is where I think, Vishnu, this is also a very deft, a very clever move on the part of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and BJP. Because instead of him being answerable to many people, it is the opposition and Congress in particular that has been put on a box, and questions are being asked that why is Congress not being nationalist enough? Why is Congress not towing Shashi Tharoor line, rather than the other way around, that Prime Minister being questioned on his entire handling of diplomacy, I would say.
But how would you respond to those who say that Shashi Tharoor has aligned himself? It's a pragmatic alignment, and one that is geared towards, furthering India's international image. Why should the Congress party be opposed to that?
No, the Congress is not at all opposed to it. The Congress has always extended a hand of friendship. But what I'm saying is there is a kind of, I would say, a dichotomy here, because what is spoken at international forum and what the Prime Minister said in Vadodara, what he said in Ahmedabad, what he said elsewhere, is something that hurts, the Congress. You cannot be belittling Jawaharlal Nehru and Indira Gandhi and get away with it. So therefore, the Congress has a right to reply, right to respond. And what Mr. Tharoor is doing, and this is something that is not understood by, let's say, a television viewer or a common man, because they want to see, like me and you as citizens, we want to see a united face of the country. But this is a ploy. Actually, the entire idea of sending this, the 7 delegations and all is aimed at domestic politics also. Because, Vishnu, as we know that there is going to be parliament session, special session on emergency, perhaps in mid-June. And of course, there is a winter session, monsoon session next month in July, where actually the Prime Minister will have a constituency in both houses of parliament within the opposition ranks to, support him on what happened with Pakistan, or with the war against terror. And therefore, the Congress and opposition is in a very weak wicket. And therefore, Mr. Tharoor is more like I would say, as a pawn that is being used, and that's the Congress perception of it. Tharoor also, you see, he's 69-year-old. He is fancying his chances as the next chief ministerial candidate in Kerala, and Congress leadership, a section of it, is not letting it happen. So he also faces a very bleak future. It's very easy, Vishnu, to say that Mr. Tharoor would switch side and all. It's not an easy thing, temperamentally and otherwise. There is no third. For Tharoor joins Trinamool and all, it comes to a knot in a state like Kerala. If he joins BJP, what will be his role? We already know what happened to Ghulam Nabi Azad. We also know what happened to Captain Amrinder Singh. They were towering leaders of the Congress, but with the other side, they're not taken for them.
Okay. All right. So interesting choices that the Congress party obviously has to look at very closely. But I think many would really be looking at what Shashi Tharoor is doing from a larger perspective as well, and whether his future genuinely does still lie in the Congress party. We'll have to wait and see. Ultimately, it's about him. But there may be wheels within wheels here. I think Rashid Bhai would agree. We'll leave it over there. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's huge. That is a biggie. It's out of there.
Gold Plus Clear Glass. Far ho ya near, sab kuch dikhe clear.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant
यहाँ मुर्शिदाबाद में जो कुछ हुआ, मालदा में जो कुछ हुआ, वो यहाँ की सरकार की निर्ममता का उदाहरण है।
I challenge them. If they have the guts, you go election for tomorrow. We are ready, and Bengal is ready to accept your challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. You're watching the News Night and I'm Deepthi Sachdeva. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made his very first visit to Bengal earlier today. This is his first visit to Bengal post the success of Operation Sindoor. And he did not hold back. Now, in a very charged address, you have the Prime Minister calling the Mamata Banerjee government Nirmam. That is the word that he uses. Nirmam means, in English, ruthless. And he's accusing the Mamata Banerjee government that he is calling Nirmam of failing to protect the people of Bengal. Mamati Manush. But the Trinamool Congress is firing right back. And they are slamming the BJP for quote-unquote playing politics over this tragedy. Mamata Banerjee said the Prime Minister is playing politics and also exploiting national security for votes. With crucial state elections just about a year away now in Bengal, the gloves are off. And tonight, we are going beyond the speeches, beyond the rhetoric, into the battle for Bengal's soul, who's shaping this narrative. And what does this clash mean for 2026 and beyond? This, remember, is not just a visit, it is a clear signal. And this is quite literally war. So we decided to decode what do these signs tell us, what is this war all about, who possibly has an edge here, with our panel of guests joining us, and we've decided not to get in political representatives today because all that you will hear then is noise. So let's decode this with the best people in the industry to help you understand what is this Mamta versus Modi war all about. I do see Amitabh Tiwari, who's a political strategist with us, and also Sajjan Kumar, again a political analyst. And we are waiting for Neerja Chaudhary to join us in just a moment. And as she does that, let me also fire our straight questions. Questions that we will try to find an answer to as far as this particular story is concerned about Mamta Banerjee and Prime Minister Modi. Would you recall what happened in 2020 when the Prime Minister said, Didi, oh Didi? Now, today what you're hearing as far as this bitter dual war of words is concerned is that a redux of what happened earlier. Let's quickly fire our second straight question, because when it comes to Mamta Banerjee and Prime Minister Modi, there is no end to this battle that is only escalating. Many people are asking, is Mamta Banerjee rattled by Prime Minister's visit to Bengal post the success of Operation Sindoor? Is that one of the reasons? Our third straight question, and that reads, is this Sindoor politics now the Prime Minister's pitch or the BJP's pitch to be able to consolidate Bengal's women voters? Because women or the Adi Abadi, remember again, hold a critical sway, and you're seeing that Adi Abadi that has largely voted for Mamta. Could that change this time around post the success of Operation Sindoor? Both these gentlemen on our screens will help us decode that bit of the narrative. Also, is Bengal plain simple, nothing else, just an ego clash also between Narendra Modi and Mamata Banerjee? Is there more to that story than meets the eye? This brings us to our fifth and our final straight question, and that reads, is this a do-or-die battle? Do-or-die battle for both Modi and Mamta, because this is a state that the BJP really wants to win. You've seen the RSS also with all its groundswell in Bengal, and not to forget Mamta, her only bastion, that she ensured that she takes from the left after a huge fight. So a lot is at stake when it comes to both of them. I also now do see Neerja ma'am on our screens, and I'll say good evening also to her. And we'll begin by asking you, Neerja ma'am, when you look at this entire battle that has played out for the second straight day between Mamta Banerjee and Prime Minister Modi, what is your sense? What is this fight all about?
This fight is about elections in 2026. Politics is banned. Operation Sindoor is over, at least though the Prime Minister says, it's ongoing. It hasn't been wound up, and that is correct. But all-party delegation is out in world capitals mobilizing support. I'm a bit surprised, like we've been talking about the Congress jumping the gun and criticizing Shashi Tharoor, who's leading one of the delegations, one of its own, while the delegations are outside and could not wait till the delegations came back, because they need to talk in the global capitals with one voice. I'm a bit surprised that the Prime Minister should take on Mamta, that the opposition is cooperating with them, for in the delegations. They are putting forward the government of India's view to the world community and mobilizing support. So I'm a bit surprised at the timing of it. Of course, politics will pan out. It is not going to, nothing will come to a halt. And very important elections are down the road. Of course, Bihar before that, but certainly West Bengal, Assam, Kerala next year. And West Bengal is a state where the Prime Minister and the BJP has its eyes on, because they feel they can make a difference there. And I absolutely agree with you. It's the women voters that they are going to target. Women are underpin the support of Mamata Banerjee and Trinamool Congress. And Operation Sindoor has been all about women. And women have responded in a very emotional way. And so they will certainly, the Prime Minister is going all out to consolidate support, in some instances to do damage control also. But yes, it is back to politics. And certainly, Nirmamta is the word he uses.
Oh, yes.
Which is a very evocative word in West Bengal in the context of Mamata Banerjee.
Yes. So, Sajjan, when the Prime Minister says that Nirmam Sarkar hai, he also talks about Murshidabad. He also talks of a lot of other Achilles heel when it comes to Mamata Banerjee. And Mamata Banerjee today has thrown an open challenge to Prime Minister Modi. She says, agar himmat hai, aap chunav kara lo Bengal mein. That is what she says. So what does this tell us of these, two individuals on the other side of the political aisle, Mamata versus Modi? Clearly, this is a battle like no other state, Sajjan.
Yes, precisely. And if you see the political scenario in Bengal, you have two pull personalities who have the pull factor. One on the one side, while there has been, strong sense of anti-incumbency, but to encash that anti-incumbency, you need, the state BJP leadership, which should be there as a pull factor, which is not the case, unfortunately. And therefore, you need the leader like Modi who is there. And then there is anti-incumbency among the rank and file against the rank and file of the Trinamool. But then you have Mamata Banerjee who has her own hold over the party. And despite all the things, she still has maintained that image of being a fighter, and a regional Kshatriya. So that way you find these two personalities have their passion and their weaknesses who they try to supersede by their own presence. This is one. But if you see Prime Minister Modi's, the method of reaching out to the Bengal, it's full of semantics that is very relatable. So he is talking about Sindoor, which is targeting one half of the electorate, that is women. Two, he is also talking about the Shakti, the cult of Shakti, the cult of Durga, etc., which he very in a customized way mentioned in today's speech at Alipurdwar. So that is also wherein he is trying to bring together a cultural and popular resonance. And on the other hand, when Mamata Banerjee is, throwing a challenge that you dare to have an election, then also Mamata Banerjee has the assurance of the demographic wherein since 2021, you have 30% of the minorities who are consolidated, which was not the case earlier because they used to be divided between Congress, CPM and Trinamool. Now they all are, despite their grudge, whatever be the case, consolidated. So that way you read in their language and all sort of the gesture, it shows that they are acutely aware about their strengths, their weaknesses, and they are playing a very predictable democratic game. And then also, if you see, Bengal is one state which is very emotionally close, not only to the BJP, but also to the RSS, because during partition refugee question, while the RSS and Jansangh was able to capture in Punjab part, but in Bengal, they lost that, plot to the Communist Party. So therefore, this is something emotive, and this is one battle which is beyond the electoral realm. So that way, do expect that it is going to be a high-charged battle wherein these two, the captain of their team, despite all the weaknesses, will try to encash and pull their way. But the point is, the last point, will BJP or state BJP in Bengal be capable of doing what Hemant Biswa Sharma did in Assam, that despite a substantial 35% minority vote, it was able to consolidate the rest of the electorate. That scenario in Bengal still, I think, is a bit difficult. Yes.
I think, Sajjan, you've put forward some fantastic points. And Amita, why don't you push that a little further? Neerja ma'am spoke about the women voter, the Adi Abadi, then comes the minority. And clearly, when Mamata Banerjee is entering the Bengal battle, she already enters that with that advantage, with already that 30% plus vote. But this time around, when the Prime Minister is there and he's speaking about Operation Sindoor, do you believe that this could be that change in narrative that could help the BJP?
See, if you look at the 2019 Lok Sabha elections, the BJP did fairly well in West Bengal without having a significant cadre base or a significantly strong state leadership. It was primarily on account of the charisma of Prime Minister Modi riding on the nationalism pitch after the Balakot airstrikes. So nationalism did help BJP in West Bengal convert a class-based election into a nationalism or a nationalist-based election at that point of time. However, it has lost ground since then. In 2021 Vidhan Sabha, Mamata came back strongly, riding on the M square, which is Mahila and minority vote bank, and recorded or scripted a historical 3/4 majority. Even in the Lok Sabha elections, the BJP performed poorly compared to 2019. So the gains have somewhat lost or dissipated compared to that. So now it's, of course, an ego, I would not say an ego, but a battle of leaders, because Mamata Banerjee perhaps is the only leader left, a regional satrap, if you exclude the southern states, who have held ground still against the Modi factor or the juggernaut. Odisha, Naveen Patnaik fell in 2024 Vidhan Sabha election, and the other fort of AAP, which was Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, also lost an election in largely a presidential style battle between Kejriwal and Modi. So here, around 50% women voters backed TMC in 2021 Vidhan Sabha election, and the lead is 13%. Just 37% voted for the BJP. This lead is higher versus compared to males, much higher. So what the Prime Minister is trying to do is instill a nationalism pitch, which has worked in the past in 2019 Lok Sabha election, as well as relate this with the women vote, where Mamata has a lead, combine it with Murshidabad violence, where Hindu homes were attacked and many lives were lost, and carry on the Sandesh Khali incident, which also happened, to tap at this women voter, because they have suffered perhaps a lot after these violences and the Sandesh Khali incident. So trying to revive nationalism and get back the women vote to have a good chance at West Bengal elections in 2026.
Okay, but still, is that possible is a question that a lot of people will continue to ask. But in this second bit of conversation that I'm going to have with all of you, I want to also discuss and open this up to a big national picture, because the Prime Minister goes first to Gujarat, Nirja ma'am, then he's traveling to Bengal, now he's in Bihar even as we speak. So you see that entire narrative that has also been created. Bihar is going to be the first election post the success of Operation Sindoor. And when you look at this pitch that the BJP now is using, do you believe that this is going to be that new narrative that possibly the regional satraps, like Amitabh just mentioned, could find difficult to counter, because you cannot not agree with the stand the government has taken vis-a-vis Pakistan?
It'll be very interesting. Bihar, where the Prime Minister goes now, is going to be a very interesting election, because so far it was said that it's going to be fought on hyper-local issues. It'll be ultimately caste lineups, the local issues in the coming election, and nationalism and what has happened now was not going to affect it that much more. But the Prime Minister is going, and the Prime Minister going to Gujarat and West Bengal. So obviously, he knows what he's doing. He's choosing his states very, very carefully. Will Bihar respond to, again, what Amitabh says, nationalism plus women? And Operation Sindoor is a very emotive symbol, particularly in states like Bihar and West Bengal. At the time of Chhat Puja, you see Sindoor right coming down to the nose of women. So it has a very emotive significance, not just for women, but for family life, the foundation of families. It speaks to people without having to say a word. And therefore, to have these women widowed in Pahalgam and see their husbands and menfolk killed in front of their eyes and helplessly not able to do anything. And the Prime Minister then says, we will avenge their deaths. This is something India is not going to forget. And this was done after ascertaining their religion. So the message has gone far and wide. Now, of course, there are people who say that India, why do the ceasefire? Why didn't you go far enough and damage Pakistan more? That public is also there. So in a sense, let us see how the Prime Minister's message resonates particularly in Bihar, where caste is such a big factor.
That is the point. And where this government has moved ahead with the caste census, they've started to speak about it, Sajjan and Amitabh, that's also a point. So you're looking at everything moving together. There was Mandal, there is Kamandal, and then there is Mahila vote. And then to trump it all is this big nationalism pitch. I mean, whether it is in Gujarat, Sajjan, or whether it was in Bihar or Bengal, we've seen those streams of Tiranga. So that is also where, a lot of things converge. Could this be something difficult for Mamata Banerjee to handle, Sajjad?
Yeah, if you see this, the grand conversion, and when we talk about the Gujarat model, we do not see the social composition. So therein you find this academic binary of Mandal versus Kamandal that never held, because primarily the aspirational ones who came to the fold of a sort of Kamandal movement also came from the Mandal social base. Who were the leaders of the Kamandal movement? Kalyan Singh and OBC, Uma Bharti and OBC, even Narendra Modi and OBC, Vinay Katiyar, the All India President of Bajrang Dal and OBC. So even the Hindutva movement of 1990s was itself led by, the subaltern OBC, Dalit, Kameshwar Chaupal, etc. So this is one of false binary. Two, they are also the ones who have now joined and clubbed with the discourse of nationalism. So aspirational India, nationalist India, social justice-centric, inclusive India, material and welfare-centric, these all converge together. And if you try to analyze the political grammar from the old texts, of 90s and early 2000s, that is not because there is a new generation and everywhere who across caste spectrum within Hindus, they relate to this multiplicity of the ideas. That is why this material and cultural and nationalism, it's a grand convergence, and that model was in Gujarat. And there was certainly an aberration in 2024 because of the organizational complacency, wherein you thought that Prime Minister Modi face is superseding factor to crush all the opposition, and therefore you saw that happening in Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh, and post that the organizational complacency has been taken care of, and you see a very hyperactive BJP. So certainly that is going to, in Bengal, the problem is while the central leadership is going to be quite hyperactive, I still do not believe that the state leadership, except Shubhendu Adhikari, any state leader who has a relatable and a resonating fan base or a ground presence. So that is one factor wherein you find a desire to change, but the ones who want to change need an organization and a state leadership who should also feel, kind of confident of encashing and representing that. And in Bengal, if the electorates are not confident of the state leadership, you mind it, there is always a fear factor. So I think whether Prime Minister Modi would be able to galvanize the state leadership also, that should be the marker we should be keenly watching on.
Yes, so because Neerja ma'am used that word, Amitabh, hyper-local, this is exactly how a lot of these regional satraps have tried to play the election. Now, when you'll come to Bihar, you'll be looking at a different matrix versus what will happen in Bengal. But I think what Sajjad says is also a part of the problem. And maybe the central BJP does realize this, that you don't have a figure or a face that can actually take up Amitabh, a Mamata Banerjee. But then we've seen things change in Delhi versus an Arvind Kejriwal, how things completely changed. It is just about that new narrative. How will you sell this new narrative? Narendra Modi 3.0, Amitabh. Last 1 minute.
Yeah, so essentially, every state is unique and different. So what the BJP, of course, realizes that the caste census, which may not work that well in West Bengal as it could in Bihar. In Bihar, the nationalism pitch which the Prime Minister is playing or adopting is a cherry on the cake because it already has a favorable caste dynamics in Bihar going in its favor. Topping that with caste census promise as well as the Operation Sindoor, so that all these three become a potent combination there. In Bengal, the caste-wise politics does not play. So what it is trying to achieve is that any government has three levels. So it is leader, which is the CM, the government, which is cabinet ministers, and the MLAs. Now, while Mamata Banerjee may still hold some decent popularity among its core vote bases, the government may not be as popular, and the MLS could be facing severe local anti-incumbency. So that's where the local contest comes in. But that requires not only Prime Minister Modi to push. So Prime Minister Modi could push perhaps in the battle with Mamata Banerjee. So Mamata versus Modi. Central government achievement versus state government achievement. But MLA versus MLA. So it needs to find out 294 strong candidates to contest against the MLAs or incumbent MLAs, which have been there for a long time now. In West Bengal, winning on TMC ticket. And there is where the local anti-incumbency, the BJP, would need to exploit. Last time it had given ticket almost half of TMC contestants. So it needs to find its own cadre base, own strong leaders to take on these people. And this three-layered approach may work in BJP's favor this time because there is a 20-year anti-incumbency.
All right, interesting times. Neerja ma'am and both gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue to track that story. Let's also get you Newsnight's parting shot now. Now, Bengal's political cauldron, remember, is boiling. Narendra Modi's blitzkrieg has hit Bihar after Gujarat, rewriting narratives post-Operation Sindhu. With the Prime Minister's high-octane campaign, Bihar's upcoming election that, remember, is going to be the first since Operation Sindhu's success, could actually redefine India's political landscape. Will nationalism be that one defining narrative that the BJP needed? And they've got it. The stakes are very high. We'll continue to track that story. Thank you so much for watching. Good night. News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold, we are direct. Newsnight, for the news in your interest. Only on NDTV 24/7.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India, it matters to India, it matters to India, and it matters to me, and it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv, only on NDTV 24/7.
These are the visuals that are coming in. Let's go full frame with it.
For every big news story.
You can't defend the indefensible Ruchira Kamboj, but that's what Pakistan has been doing for a very, very long time.
We are sifting through a lot of information. Some is right, some is not right. But I think we are
India
right
tunes in to NDTV.
In fact, on NDTV, like we've been doing for the last few hours, we've been
for fast, clear, and credible news.
We've also been, busting a lot of misinformation that's been coming in.
When I was standing on the road, I saw these lights going off in the sky, and I could hear
where credibility
sounds of like
comes
what sound
first.
like blasts happening.
When Pakistan started shelling and first shell landed here, you can see this.
Well, we have reached at ground zero, and this village is
NDTV. First, fast, factual. More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv, Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The markets move fast.
And so should your portfolio. Expert insights, real-time stock picks.
Do I buy Ola?
Should I hold CDSL for the long term?
Buy, sell or hold.
The answers you need, straight from the experts.
Callers from India and across the world. Connect live, ask, decide and invest wisely.
Your portfolio, your future. Ask Profit.
The last 1 month, if you see, the share prices of Genzol Engineering has fallen more than 58%.
Why are the rating firms calling the debt payments as default?
We have two credible credit rating agencies on March 4th coming and downgrading the stock to D.
Statements are consistently being proven wrong, and transactions are being taken place which are different from what they were originally pictured to be.
The company claimed it would roll out 6,400 electric vehicles. But what it has rolled out is a shocking scam. Funds meant for the project were funneled allegedly back to the promoters, the Junkie brothers. What did the money buy? Not EVs, of course, but a lavish flat in Gurgaon's luxurious DLF Carmelias.
News is not just headlines, it is what impacts you. And news should never be mistaken for noise. What matters is the reality. Accurate, in-depth, and with the right perspective. For over 20 years, I have been a journalist, and never has clarity mattered more than now. At Newsnight, we go beyond the surface. We dissect the details, challenge the narratives, and bring you the unparalleled clarity you deserve in a world clouded by misinformation. We are bold.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching NDTV. Elon Musk, who was serving as advisor to US President Donald Trump and special government employee, has announced his exit from the White House. In domestic politics, the Prime Minister was in Bihar and Bengal today, both poll-bound states. Home Minister Amar, in fact, has also held a very important security meeting in Jammu today to review preparations for the upcoming Amarnath Yatra. All that and more coming up, but first up, the headlines. Home Minister Amit Shah on a two-day Jammu visit. The Home Minister has held a very important review meeting on Amarnath Yatra today. Bengaluru Police Commissioner has been transferred now, and this transfer after murders in Bengaluru. Prime Minister Modi sounds poll bugle in Bihar, mega PM Modi roadshow in Patna. Bengaluru makes it to IPL final now. Bengaluru has dismantled Punjab in qualifier 1. Meanwhile, US court has halted Trump's visa ban. This is a tentative halt on international ban on students. Union Home Minister Amit Shah is on a very important Jammu visit today, and he has chaired a high-level meeting on security preparedness. Mr. Shah has also reviewed preparations for the upcoming Amarnath Yatra. Remember that Home Minister Amit Shah had visited Jammu and Kashmir immediately after the brutal attack on tourists in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April. This is the Home Minister's second important visit to Jammu, where he has chaired this important high-level meeting. Mr. Shah has also reviewed preparations for the upcoming Amarnath Yatra. In this meeting, there were high-level officials, including personnel from security forces and also the LG of J&K, Manoj Sinha. This is to just remind our viewers that Union Home Minister is on an important Jammu visit today. In fact, he has also chaired a high-level security meeting in Jammu, and this meeting saw the presence of important high-level police officials and also personnel from the armed forces, and he is said to have presided over this meeting that went on for over 2 hours, and he has also reviewed preparations for the upcoming Amarnath Yatra in J&K. Remember, Amit Shah was amongst the first to arrive immediately in J&K immediately after the Pahalgam terror attack. On the 22nd of April, he had also met victims then. He had also visited the people who had been injured in that attack. He had also met relatives of those who had lost their loved ones. My colleague Aishwarya joins us with more details on this. Aishwarya, the upcoming Amarnath Yatra is going to be in some ways a test of how prepared the security systems in J&K are, and this meeting by the Home Minister in the midst of Operation Sindoor and also after what happened in Pahalgam also shows that the Home Minister is very concerned, and he is also in some ways wanting to ensure that preparedness is on point. Tell us who were all present in this meeting today and what does this signify?
Well, there were, the CAPF, CRPF, BSF, CISF, ITBP and SSB officials who were present during the meeting. The Home Minister chaired as far as the review of the security arrangements for the pilgrimage during his visit to Jammu. It is Amarnath Yatra, which is slated to begin on July 3rd and is set to continue till August 9, 2025. And it is, of course, major decisions that have been taken earlier as well in regards to Amarnath Yatra. The centre has called for deployment of at least 580 companies of the Central Armed Police Forces. This will include about 42,000 on-guard CAPF personnel for the annual pilgrimage. This comes after Operation Sindoor and the kind of terror activities that we have seen in the valley, and therefore the reason perhaps it will be 424 companies that are being sent to the Union Territory to ensure safe Yatra route, and the companies will be relocated to the UT during Operation Sindoor, will also be relocated as well. We have been also told that the Union Home Ministry has directed the CAPF forces to immediately move and take positions in the Union Territory just ahead of the Amarnath Yatra. This will include 150 to 160 units already present in the unit and 580 companies that would be deployed. So a major push as far as security concerns, and Home Minister Amit Shah, they're chairing a high-level meeting in Jammu.
Right. So the Amarnath Yatra all scheduled to begin on the 3rd of July and to conclude on the 19th of August. And the Shrine Board has already issued guidelines, registration process is on. And the Home Minister there taking a very important meeting of security personnel. Aishwarya, stay with us for the next story. Top Congress sources have told NDTV that there's no action that is being contemplated by the Congress party against Shashi Tharoor at this moment. In fact, the party leadership is of the opinion that after Shashi Tharoor's clarification post, there's no need to escalate the matter further. And this is despite several leaders' statements on the matter. My colleague Aishwarya is back with us. Aishwarya, today we did see not just Udit Raj, but also people like Pawan Kheda and Jairam Ramesh also in some ways speak in one unified voice against some aspects of what Dr. Tharoor said today as part of his speech in Panama. Tell us, now that the Congress party seems to have come out with this statement, at least unofficially, that they don't want to escalate this matter, there's no action being contemplated against Dr. Tharoor. What does this mean for Mr. Tharoor and also for the Congress party?
Well, the Congress has softened its stance towards senior party leader Shashi Tharoor hours after the Member of Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram defended his line of control remark in a strongly worded post on social media X by saying he is very much part of family. It is, of course, a friction that was seen within the Congress party. Several Congress leaders came across, and also from the INC social media official handle as well. There were posts that were put out as far as how the UPA in the UPA era, the Congress government had conducted surgical strikes and corrected Dr. Shashi Tharoor. It is seeking to ease internal friction. Congress General Secretary Randeep Surjewala, who did a press conference this evening, reiterated that Tharoor remains an important part of the party, and he is a senior Congress leader and very much part of the Congress family. However, what he has stated about surgical strike were factually incorrect, but he had corrected himself. So yes, making the stance on Shashi Tharoor softened, but yes, of course, we have seen in the last few days several of the Congress leaders even went on to say that Shashi Tharoor is acting as a super spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party.
Right. There's some softening of stand when it comes to the Congress party's position on Shashi Tharoor, with Congress leaders saying that they just wanted to set the record straight and they don't want to escalate any action against Dr. Tharoor. Meanwhile, a US federal judge will issue an injunction blocking Trump administration's efforts to prevent Harvard University from enrolling international students. The university was in court seeking to extend a tentative order blocking the Trump administration from revoking the school's right to host international students. The judge, in fact, had issued an emergency block last week after the administration abruptly announced that it would cancel Harvard's ability to host international students, the latest and most severe escalation in the administration's battle against higher education institutions. My colleague Vishal is with us. Vishal, tell us what is the latest in the US administration Trump versus Harvard confrontation?
So this is a temporary win for the Harvard administration and its students who incidentally passed out. The latest batch of the Harvard passed out. There was a graduation ceremony today, and that coincided with this historic ruling. But it's a temporary reprieve for the Harvard community, for the Harvard students, for the university itself, because this case will go on. The same judge had given some relief for the same community just a few days ago, as you mentioned. And she had said in that original ruling that Harvard has made a case that proves that without the international community, without the international students, it will be hard for the whole university to survive, because almost a quarter of the students at Harvard belong to the foreign community. And as we speak, almost 8,000 students from the foreign community are studying in Harvard, and almost 800 to 900 are from India. So that gives you a picture of how big of a portion foreign students occupy at Harvard. So this ruling is a big relief for the students there, but it's a temporary one because the Trump administration has been doing all it can to clamp down on Harvard. It wants Harvard to bend down and accept its term, but Harvard is standing firm. Many other Ivy League institutions have accepted Trump administration's policies, change in policies, but Harvard is standing its ground. Harvard's president, Alan Garber, has risen up as an unlikely hero. Today, he was given a 1-minute standing ovation by the Harvard community. So that's what is happening in Harvard right now.
Right. Thank you, Vishal, for joining us with those details. Meanwhile, Tesla boss Elon Musk has announced that his role in the Trump administration has come to an end. He has said that his time leading President Donald Trump's cost-cutting task force is coming to an end, while classified as a special government employee and also senior advisor to the president. The tycoon has left an indelible mark on American politics as Mr. Trump's most visible backer. In fact, Musk also thanked Donald Trump for the role in a post on X, and he believed that the cost-cutting agency would become a way of life throughout government.
Trump is also losing a key advisor. Elon Musk announcing on X that he is leaving the administration. The billionaire has a special government employee designation, so he can only work 130 days each year. So that's going to give him until the end of May. But Musk has really been facing a lot of criticism for his role at DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. He's been slashing jobs in the name of cost savings, and his exit comes as the bromance between him and Donald Trump appears to be fraying. Just this week, he criticized Trump's economic policy, which includes these trillion-dollar tax breaks, which will add to the national deficit. Tony Waterman, NDTV, Washington.
Well, coastal Karnataka remains tense after a group of miscreants attacked an individual with a sword in Irakudi Kuriara village, and this has made the situation quite tense across Mangalore. Earlier today, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah also reviewed the law and order situation in the city, but what we understand now is that the commissioner has also been transferred. My colleague Deepak joins us with more details on this. Deepak, what has been the fallout of this investigation into the murder case, and also the fact that there were also protests taking place across Bantwal district? What has really happened now?
Well, the latest update is that 3 people have been arrested. Yesterday, of course, we here at NDTV had broken that news that 3 people have been taken into custody, and in all likelihood, they are the prime accused. That is something that has been confirmed with these arrests. The communal squad has officially come into being with a DIG level officer taking over. There are about 258 anti-Naxal force team members who are going to be part of this. Meanwhile, the Mangaluru commissioner has been transferred out of, the district. We should note that there have been 3 murders now in about a month's time, and there was a lot of accountability that was being sought. Meanwhile, Muslim leaders and party workers of the Congress today had a meeting, massive drama there, multiple people, in fact, over 100 signing resignation letters, saying that the government hasn't done anything to protect their community members, their interests. So a lot, of course, has happened. Now I'm also picking up there is a possibility that Mr. Dinesh Gundurao, who's the district in charge minister, could also step down as from his post. So there's definitely a series of developments that have occurred, and the area, of course, continues to remain tense with prohibitory orders that continue to remain in place.
Right. Thank you, Deepak, for joining us with those details. Moving on to other stories from the south of India. Kamal Hassan's language row has escalated now. Remember that he had a few days ago said that Kannada was born out of Tamil language. And now Kannada actors have slammed Kamal Hassan. Divya Spandana has basically called him out, and she has said that this is a factually incorrect statement. Just to remind our viewers that Kamal Hassan has refused to apologize for his statement, and he has said that he was just speaking from what experts have told him. He has also said that it is not fair for politicians to talk about language controversies such as this, and this should be left to experts. But actress Ramya, who's also called Divya Spandana, has spoken on this row now, and she has said that Kamal Hassan made a factually incorrect statement.
What's your take on the matter?
I think Kamal sir has made a factually incorrect statement. Kannada is not derived from Tamil. In fact, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam and Telugu, we're all under the same umbrella of Dravidian languages. So no one is superior or anything like that. We're all one family basically. But having said that, I think it's a bit much, this boycotting, ban. I've never stood for it in the past and I don't stand for it now. I think that's a bit much. And I think we're all adults and we can all engage in constructive dialogue with each other. But yeah, that is my opinion. And I think we as South Indians, we have a bigger problem to battle together, which is the Hindi imposition. I think we're just getting caught up in these petty things as, mother language, daughter language, sister and all of that. And to those, who say Sanskrit is the mother of all languages, I completely disagree with that also. Because the Dravidians were here much before the Indo-Aryan migration, and we're distinctly different. The Indo-Aryan race and the Dravidians are distinctly different. So, of course, the influence of Sanskrit has happened over the years, and which is what we don't want. We want to retain our essence, and we're one of the oldest languages.
Right.
So, yeah, this is what I had to say.
No, but what's even more important here is politicians as well getting involved actively. We've seen both the BJP and the Congress, both of them of course have things to say. More importantly, a minister is now writing to the film chamber saying that he should apologize. If he doesn't, we should boycott his movies. How do you really look at this?
So here's the thing, right? I saw Kamal sir's statement much later, of course, where he said that, I said it out of love and love does not apologize. Yeah. I kind of disagree with that statement because I'm of the opinion that in love, there's no ego, The easiest thing for you to do is say sorry and move on. If the other person's feelings are hurt, you just say sorry. So I disagree with that statement. That's my personal opinion. And as far as this boycott and ban thing goes, I'm completely against it. I think it's a bit much. I think you can't force someone to apologize first and foremost. And secondly, you can't punish, we're a democracy and, things don't function like this. And as far as the apology goes, I think Kamal sir should, just apologize because honestly, if he said, he said it out of love, then in love, it should be the easiest thing for him to do.
So Actor Divya Spandana on the Kamal Hassan statement row. Meanwhile, India's Air Chief Marshal Amar Preet Singh has raised concerns over delays in major defence procurement projects. Many times we know while signing contracts that those systems will never come. Timelines are a big issue. Not a single project I can think of is completed on time. Why should we promise something that cannot be achieved? That's what he has said. Contracts signed, systems never come. Air Force Chief flags delays that have affected several key projects, including Tejas fighter aircraft, which remains undelivered despite a high-value contract signed over 3 years ago. We cannot just talk about producing in India. We need to also talk about designing. We need to have trust between the forces and industry. We need to be very open. Once we have committed on something, we should be able to deliver. Air Force is trying to do its best to make in India. That's what the Air Chief Marshal has said today.
Timelines is a big issue. That is where that Vachan part comes in. So once a timeline is given, not a single project that I can think of has been completed on time. So this is something where we have to look at. Why should we promise something which cannot be achieved? While signing the contract itself, some of the times we are sure that it is not going to come up. But we just signed the contract. Uske baad dekhenge kya karna. Obviously, then the process gets vitiated. Op Sindoor, as it is, like it was told by Chief of Naval Staff, that character of war is changing. Every day we're finding new technologies coming in. Technology is coming in a big way in our warfare now. And Op Sindoor has again given us clear idea of where we are headed and what we need in future. So a lot of work needs to be done in realigning our own thought processes also, which is already going on. In future also we will be able to deliver the goods as a nation and we will be able to achieve our objectives.
Well, in a decisive move to protect digital consumers, Union Minister for Consumer Affairs Prahalad Joshi has mandated that all e-commerce platforms will now have to comply with guidelines for prevention and regulation of dark patterns 2023. Now, these guidelines formulated after extensive consultation identified 13 manipulative design practices, and these include false urgency, basket sneaking and subscription traps that mislead users into unintended actions. The government has directed companies to conduct internal audits and also submit annual reports to the Department of Consumer Affairs. Non-compliance could lead to legal action under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Minister Prahlad Joshi has emphasized that consumer interest is paramount, and he has also urged platforms to proactively eliminate these deceptive practices.
Hello, hi. I'm Shreya and I've been working since early morning, and it's time for me to take a chill break. Let me order some cold coffee for myself and my colleagues. Well, with these apps, we keep getting pop-in messages and notifications that only, a limited offer is there, and that makes me really anxious and makes me panic, and I feel like ordering it then and there. Well, I've ordered 2 cold coffee cans. It costs 82 rupees. Now let me go to my cart and let's see how much it costs. Well, 82 rupees has been hiked up to 163 rupees. How did this happen really? Let me just go down and show you. Here in this very option, you have to click and see how these extra charges have been added. These are vague service charges, convenience fee. What do you even really mean by small cart fee, handling charge, delivery charge is still understandable, but this has led to an extreme price hike from rupees 82 to rupees 163. Is this even worth it? Or is this just an accident? That is the question. These are not accidents. These are algorithm-driven deceptive tactics which are called dark patterns. It's used by all these e-commerce platforms. It's not just Zepto. There is Swiggy, Zomato and other platforms as well like Big Basket. They use these manipulative tactics to influence your choice and my choice. Well, I have been thinking of cancelling my Prime membership for days now, but I have been procrastinating like all Gen Zs. Now I'll show you how the cancellation of this Prime membership is such a tricky job. Well, you go to your account, and you don't see any options of cancellation. You do see this button, account. Here you have to still look for cancellation of Prime membership account, and you don't get to see any of that. Here you see manage Prime membership. So yet another click. So I've already made 3 clicks, by the way. And now I'll go here also. Can you see anywhere about cancelling the Prime membership? No, right? Here you see my annual plan is there. It is going to end soon, but still I am not being able to find the feature of cancelling the membership of Amazon Prime. Here, let me click on this. Finally, after 6 clicks, I'm still being asked questions and these pop-up messages are coming on my screen, and I just don't know how to end the membership. Finally, I see an option of continue to cancel. End membership. So you do see the series of steps, almost 6 to 7 clicks later you get to find the cancellation of Amazon Prime membership. But without strict enforcement, this change will not happen. With growing technology and growing online digital market space, the rights of the consumer is paramount and needs to be protected. To know more about dark patterns, one can always open Jagrit app made by the government to understand better and to report about dark patterns if you see it on any platform, in any of these e-commerce platforms like I just did.
Meanwhile, Royal Challengers Bengaluru have qualified for IPL finals. In fact, Bengaluru took on Punjab in qualifier 1 matchup tonight, beating them comprehensively by 8 wickets. This is now the first time that Bengaluru has qualified for the finals since 2016. Punjab will now play qualifier 2 matchup on the 1st of June. My colleague Sriram is with us. Sriram, tell us the latest update with regard to IPL.
That's right. So the Royal Challengers Bangalore have won their qualifier 1 matchup tonight against the Punjab Kings, quite comprehensively beating the Punjab Kings on the night in Mohali, where Punjab were completely outplayed, getting knocked out for 101 runs and then being able to chase that down with just 2 wickets down. Tough luck for Shreyas Iyer, the captain, who has been phenomenal all throughout the season, and so have most of the Punjab Kings players this year, finishing at the top of the table, qualifying for the qualifier 1 position, where the winner of that particular matchup will go directly into the finals, which now the Royal Challengers Bangalore have done. Royal Challengers Bangalore, as we must notice that they have come up after a brilliant win in their last group stage game and got to the second spot, chasing down 200 odd runs, and they were phenomenal on the 200 runs on the night, and they were phenomenal on the night as well, beating Punjab Kings quite comprehensively tonight. Virat Kohli and that coveted all elusive IPL final is back on the cards for RCB. They're just one win away from winning the title again.
It's been a happy day for all fans of Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Thank you, Sriram, for joining us with those details. With that, it's time for a short break. More news and updates on the other side.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv, Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
So these are the visuals that are coming in. Let's go full frame with it.
For every big news story,
from Jammu.
You can't defend the indefensible Ruchira Kamboj, but that's what Pakistan has been doing for a very, very long time.
We are sifting through a lot of information. Some is right, some is not right. But I think we are
India
right
tunes in to NDTV.
we put on air.
In fact, on NDTV, like we've been doing for the last few hours, we've been for fast, clear, and credible news. We've also been, busting a lot of misinformation that's been coming in.
When I was standing on the road, I saw these lights going off in the
NDTV,
sky, and I could hear
where credibility
sounds of like
comes
what sound
first.
like blasts happening.
When Pakistan started shelling and first shell landed here, you can see this.
Well, we have reached at ground zero, and this village is
NDTV, first,
from where
fast,
we have seen one
factual.
incident had taken place.
More news that matters.
Big exclusive. Tulsi Gabbard gunned down by Pakistan-backed cowards.
When you interact with people on ground, you're able to reflect their sentiments much better.
More debates that shake the system. More exclusives you won't find anywhere else. Not just another prime time. It's a prime time that's unmissable.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
If it matters to you, if it matters to you, if it matters to you, it matters to India. It matters to India. And it matters to me. And it matters to me.
India Matters with Shiv Aroor, only on NDTV 24/7.
I've been reporting on all issues big and small from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of maximum city is infectious. I'm bringing that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti, also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
India's IT capital is always bustling, a city full of startups, stories and surprises. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations,
Home Minister Amit Shah on a two-day Jammu visit. Amit Shah has held an important review meeting on Amarnath Yatra. Bengaluru Police Commissioner has been transferred now after back-to-back murders. Prime Minister Modi sounds poll bugle in Patna in Bihar. Mega road show in Patna. Bengaluru makes it to IPL final now. Bengaluru dismantled Punjab in qualifier 1. US court halts Donald Trump's visa ban. It's a tentative halt on international student ban. No smoking even outdoors. France mulling smoking ban outdoors. Smoking ban in places that are popular amongst kids. Well, Bollywood actors Kajol and her husband Ajay Devgan during the trailer launch of their upcoming movie were asked about their opinion on the reduced number of work hours for mothers in the midst of Deepika Padukone and Sandeep Reddy Vanga's Spirit Row. And Deepika walked out of Vanga's Spirit with sources citing that her demand for an 8-hour workday amongst many others was not met by the filmmaker. The couple said that honest filmmakers should be okay with such demands. Listen in to what they said.
Most of the honest filmmakers, I would say, will not have a problem with this. And apart from just being a mother and working for 8 hours, usually people have started working for 8 to 9 hours in a shift. So I think it's person to person, and most of the industry does understand all this.
Kannada actress Ramya, who's also called Divya Spandana, has spoken on Kamal Hassan's statement row. She has said that Kamal Hassan made a factually incorrect statement, and she has said that there's no superior language amongst Dravidian languages, and all 5 South Indian languages come from the same family. And she has also said that she doesn't agree with the boycott call that has been made by several pro-Kannadiga groups. She said that we are adults and we must not indulge in such slander, and that we must indulge in constructive dialogue. South Indians must deal with the bigger issue of Hindi imposition. That's what the actor has said today.
What's your take on the matter?
I think Kamal sir has made a factually incorrect statement. Kannada is not derived from Tamil. In fact, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam and Telugu, we're all under the same umbrella of Dravidian languages. So no one is superior or anything like that. We're all one family basically. But having said that, I think it's a bit much, this boycotting, ban. I've never stood for it in the past and I don't stand for it now. I think that's a bit much. And I think we're all, adults and we can all engage in constructive dialogue with each other. But yeah, that is my opinion. And I think we as South Indians, we have a bigger problem to battle together, which is the Hindi imposition. I think we're just getting caught up in these petty things as, mother language, daughter language, sister and all of that. And to those, who say Sanskrit is the mother of all languages, I completely disagree with that also. Because the Dravidians were here much before the Indo-Aryan migration, and we're distinctly different. The Indo-Aryan race and the Dravidians are distinctly different. So, of course, the influence of Sanskrit has happened over the years, and which is what we don't want. We want to retain our essence, and we're one of the oldest languages.
Right.
So, yeah, this is what I had to say.
No, but what's even more important here is politicians as well getting involved actively. We've seen both the BJP and the Congress, both of them of course have things to say. More importantly, a minister is now writing to the film chamber saying that he should apologize. If he doesn't, we should boycott his movies. How do you really look at this?
So here's the thing, right? I saw Kamal sir's statement much later, of course, where he said that, I said it out of love and love does not apologize. Yeah. I kind of disagree with that statement because I'm of the opinion that in love, there's no ego, The easiest thing for you to do is say sorry and move on. If the other person's feelings are hurt, you just say sorry. So I disagree with that statement. That's my personal opinion. And as far as this boycott and ban thing goes, I'm completely against it. I think it's a bit much. I think you can't force someone to apologize first and foremost. And secondly, you can't punish, we're a democracy and, things don't function like this. And as far as the apology goes, I think Kamal sir should, just apologize because honestly, if he said, he said it out of love, then in love, it should be the easiest thing for him to do.
Well, a murder in Bangalore has made the city and the district, especially entire coastal Karnataka, very tense. Earlier today, Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has also reviewed the law and order situation in this part of the state. Prohibitory orders have also been imposed in Bantwal district till the 30th of May. And the Commissioner of Police has also been transferred now, while 3 arrests have been made.